And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 30 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave McRae. I am here with the lovely Tony Michael. Tony, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
It's like we haven't been here for a minute, you know?
Yes, it's been 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah, the week we were going to do it, then it's been 2 weeks. We had to move a week because I had company in town from out of town, and then, of course, you had a photo shoot yesterday. So here we are. The date today is Monday, July the 15th, 2019.
Big 3-0.
Yes, that's right.
Wow,
and this
coincidence. Stranger Things season 3, the big 3-0.
That's right. Yeah, I like where you're going with that.
Things going on here, you know.
And Tony and I are going to be talking season 3 of Stranger Things today. We want to finally get this out of the way. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about season 1 and 2, and today we're talking season 3. We are talking spoilers.
Heavy spoilers.
This is an in-depth discussion. The season 3 has been out now for 11 days. So if you have not watched season 3, if you have not completed season 3, go watch season 3, go complete season 3, and then come back and watch this video, because this video will be here online for you to watch until your heart's content. But if you don't want anything spoiled, you might want to turn away now. So you have been warned, and we'll continue to update that throughout the show as well. But you're absolutely right. I need to get a spoiler graphic. That's one thing I got to do.
Episode 30, season 3, 11 days since the drop of season 3. 11, no pun on the 11, right?
Ooh,
I'm playing the lottery tonight, okay? Because
I think you should.
A lot of strange things happening. No pun.
Yes, I think you should play the lottery tonight. Let me just go back here. I'm trying to bring up our little thing here on this other monitor, so I know that we are good. There we go. Okay, we're good. That's the monitor over there where I make sure the live feed is active and everything is okay. So, let's jump right into it, shall we? Oh, is there anything else we want to kind of quickly say? I don't think so. I think no, we'll wait. Well, hey, the usual reminder.
Q&A at the end.
Q&A and super chats. Try to reserve those until the Q&A at the end of the show. That way we don't miss or potentially miss it. Because obviously we don't want to do that. Because we think you guys are awesome. So, okay, let's jump right into it. Tony, what did you think of season 3 of Peculiar Things?
Holy freaking 1980s on steroids. If they went for nostalgia, they went for the nostalgia of the 80s, like over the top, but the bombastic of that decade. And that was the one thing I did like about it. The only negative part, and it's not really a negative, I thought some elements to it, and we'll get into it here shortly, was a little predictable. At the end of the first episode, I pretty much was like, when we were binge watching it that day, I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to, and pretty much everything fell into place. And like, Casey's looking at me like, what the fuck, dude? Are you like Satan or something? Because I literally called everything that was happening. And that was the only thing. I wish it wasn't as predictable. Yes, you had to suspend a lot of belief on certain things that happen, especially when we start talking the Russian shit and the kids going down into the Russian facility. I was like, okay. But all in all, again, it's just, it was a fun adventure. 8 episodes, was it? Yeah, 8 episodes. It was good, and like in anything, there's always pros and cons, but again, they hit a home run with it. What did you think?
Well, I thought season 3 of Stranger Things was much better than season 2, but I still think I like season 1 the best. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think the reason for that is because of the smaller, more claustrophobic, the ambiguity of season 1. There was a real mystery at the heart of the show, and the mystery at the heart of the show involved even though we didn't really know him very well when he disappeared, we knew at the very beginning of that first episode when we saw him playing Dungeons and dragons with his buddies. The chemistry was immediately apparent.
Yep.
And we followed Will home, and he disappears. So even though we've only known him for about 5 minutes or so, enough was established on the relationship, the overall bigger picture of these kids and, what their relationship could be, that you almost felt for him a little bit. Like, oh my God, that's so creepy. So you spend the majority of the first season, there's a real mystery. I've never binge watched before in my life. And I've never actually had a experience where I've where I've binge watched, because I don't usually watch a lot of shows. But with season 1 of Stranger Things, I actually had to watch every like I'd end an episode and I'd have to watch. I felt compelled to watch the next episode. I didn't feel that with season 2, and I didn't quite feel that with season 3. There were certain episodes that I felt like I needed to go on, but the entire I didn't feel that. With season 1 I did, because it was like every episode was like this Twilight Zone mystery, unsolved. It was creepy, and again, it has the novelty of being the first thing and all that kind of jazz. But so not to rant on, but I still think season 1 is the best because of that something. But season 3 I think is much better paced, and much obviously more exciting and bigger and much more cinematic than season 2.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, I would say, first of all, the standout character in my opinion, was Maya Hawke, Robin. For those who don't know, that's Ethan Hawke and what's his wife's name again? Oh my God.
Oh, Uma Thurman.
Yeah, Kill Bill.
Yeah.
That's their daughter, and her portrayal of Robin, she stole it, man. She was great. The guy who plays Billy, Dakin or something like that is his name. He was very strong throughout this season, but I called it with Robin, and immediately I said, by the end of the first episode, I said she's going to have a coming out moment, and Steve is going to fall for her, and ultimately they're just going to become like Will and Grace BFF, friends.
Right.
You just kind of saw the writing on the wall with that character of hers, but man, she just blended right in. You know what I mean? That's what I like. There was like no awkwardness it's tough when you're coming into a third season, you're a new cast member. It's same thing with I call her Mad Max, the little girl who plays Max on the show. Same thing with her. She blended right in with season 2, but Robin in season 3, again, blended right in. The chemistry between her and Steve, and also her Steve with Dustin and what's Lucas's sister's name? I forget her name. Erica, yes, thank you. And it just great chemistry. You didn't feel like it was forced. The kids worked off of each other very well, even though, again, far-fetched, the whole, what they're doing, I thought was a little bit like a little over the top. But again, that's the 80s. Everything was the bombastic, decade, and everything was over
very
the
eccentric.
top.
That's right.
Absolutely very eccentric. So I loved her character the best in the season. Did you see anything that you really liked that stood out the most to you? In season 3.
One of the worries I had going into season 3 was, we are entering an age now with these kids that we need to see their social development in terms of the things they're going to be interested in when they're 14 and 15 is very different than when they're 10 and 11.
Absolutely.
And
they're aging quick.
Right. And there's a reason for that too, because they waited so fucking long to do season 3. But I was worried that it was going to be a throwaway, not line, but a throwaway scene. Just to kind of say, oh, by the way, these are teenagers. Right. And it was nice that the actual dynamic of being that age was woven into the narrative. It was part of the story. Because
we're still trying to hold on to their childhood. I thought that was great, too.
That's right. I know there are a lot of people that think that, when Mike said to Will, it's not my problem you're not into girls. Obviously, there's a lot. Oh, he's gay. No, I mean, look, maybe the writers will take it that way. But my first impression was that's not what the writers meant. The writers meant that he's
I'm holding on, to our childhood. I'm not ready to let go.
I didn't get into girls till I was like 13, right? Because I was too busy playing hockey and I was too busy listening to music. And then, of course, you obviously hit a point where you just, you can't hold it off anymore, right? That's what that means. It's not my problem, you're not into girls. It's not, translation, that you like dudes. Now, maybe the writers will write it that way. Who the hell knows? But in that moment, in that scene, I am very confident that that is what the writers meant, because of the way they were utilizing Will's character as trying to keep everybody playing things that they used to play when they were young, when his friends are no longer interested in it. Because if it was really about his potential homosexuality at 15, they would have introduced that a different way, or they probably would have, introduced it a different way.
When they're playing Dungeons and Dragons in season 3, Will is totally into it. He's got the costume on, and
100%.
The whole story thing going, and Lucas and Mike are there, like, all right, bro, like, whatever.
Right.
They want to go be with their girls, and same as you, I did not feel like. It bothers me that everything now is all about sexuality. Everything,
That's right.
Is this person straight? Is this person gay? Like, don't overthink it so much. I just feel like it was a moment between Mike and Will, like you just said. It was just buddies. Like, hey man, I'm still trying to hang on to our, childhood and our, friendship and, the Dungeons and Dragons that we played. I think Will is probably going to find himself a girl, and I think they'll probably introduce it into season 3, or they'll just still leave it open up to interpretation. Because honestly, I don't need that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I just want to mention something in the chat room here, because here's the perfect example of the lack of nuance and the lack of or the inability to not take things so literally and read between the lines. So we have our usual troll here, Beck, Lord of the Dead, and he's talking about a video that I posted just a couple of hours ago about trophy hunting photos. And he's going on here in the chat room about how I don't like hunting, but yet I'm going to eat meat anyway. The video, I just want to address this. That's right. I'm giving you a shout out. You're getting a shout out.
2 seconds of fame.
He is, because, well, he has an inferiority complex. So, you have to help the little ones out every now and then. So, the video that I posted was about the trophy hunting photo, not about hunting in and of itself. But of course, with the internet, because most of the internet are 13-year-old girls, they lack the understanding of nuance. And when they see it, or when they hear me talking, they think I'm talking about not hunting. Of course I'm not talking about hunting. I'm talking about the trophy photo and how the photo is ironic to the intent of the photo. So I just want to, I want to help the little ones out, a little bit, because sometimes they don't have, the mental capacity to truly be able to read between the lines, because they take things so literally. So Zobek should feel happy tonight that he got a little shout out from me. But then again, I'm not surprised that he lacks the objective awareness to truly understand more nuanced things like, my video. But that's not surprise.
And now, folks, back to our regular scheduled program. That's
right. Okay. So Stranger Things season 3. Yeah. It's one of those things where, like
that's a tough age. I remember, I'm sure you remember being like you were just starting to say about being 13, 14 years old. Some of us, are starting to hang out with girls, while you guys, and I did that, as soon as I was 13, I was off and running with the girls.
That's right.
And, you have your other buddies who are still trying to be like, hey man, come, play ball, come, do this. And I'm like, no, man, I want to go hang with her. So I definitely was able to identify with that, because I went through that at one point.
That's right. Exactly. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. No, I did too. But that's what that whole Will dynamic was about. It was about Will, because you see, this is the thing too that people don't understand. I mean, you could spin it the other way, that for some reason that they want to be able to, spin it. But because he spent the vast majority of season 1 and the vast majority of season 2 not connected to his friends.
Yeah.
He's socially behind.
Right.
His development is behind. So that's why, because of everything he's been through, it's not that he's gay. Now, could the writers write that? Again, yes, they might. But that is not what I saw from that scene. It's clear to me that Mike and Lucas and everybody, they've moved on. They're socially more mature, and Will is struggling to keep up. So that's, I mean, that and I like that. I like that dynamic a lot. And Will has always been an emotional character, right?
Yeah.
And he's a brilliant little actor. He's brilliant. Yeah, he is. So and that's part of it as well. So Yeah, in terms of other characters, one character that I found really fucking annoying, and it has nothing to do with the actress. I think she's adorable. I think she's cute. It's just the creative choice to have her this way every 5 seconds was Erica, Lucas's sister.
Smart mouth.
I didn't. It got like, I understand that this is the kind of show where you have to suspend your disbelief anyway. But usually Stranger Things had a nice balance. Yes, there's some cheese, and yes, there's some things you kind of go, okay, that wouldn't happen, or it wouldn't happen in that way, but because it's a show, we're going to... But I don't understand why we needed to have Erica, the exhaustive loudmouth that she was. In small doses, it's cute. But then what ends up happening is that when she's quipping and making sarcastic remarks at every given turn, in every given moment, it's oversaturated, and you remove any sense of vulnerability from the character. Now, we have to remember that Erica is 10 years old. Now, actually, the actual actress, I think, is like 13 or 14. But
13 or 14, yeah.
She's playing a 10-year-old. That 10-year-old has never been in this kind of a situation.
No.
Steve and... Dustin have not necessarily that kind of a situation, but they've been through shit over the last 2 years, right? Right. So they've seen shit. They've been through shit. And Erica hasn't. She hasn't been there. She thinks all this nerdy shit is just bullshit. So there should have been she probably, in some sort of way, is able to be confident and fine, I'll go do it. You just wait here. I'll just go do it. Because she doesn't really believe that the shit that they're paranoid about is real. And then once she starts to figure out, oh my God, this really is real, we should have seen some vulnerability there. I don't mean that you turn her character completely off, but there could have been a nice moment between her and Dustin, because that's one of his best buddies' younger sisters, right? Like, I mean, if you had a younger sister, Tony, I don't think you do, right? You have an older...
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah. So let's say, like, now, Lucas doesn't know that Erica is down there with Dustin, but if I was in the presence of your younger sister in that kind of a scenario, you'd be hoping that I'd be taking care of her, right?
Absolutely.
I'd be looking over her, and vice versa. So there should, even though there was subtle moments of that, it always ended with a quip and a sarcastic remark, like Erica thought she was at the McDonald's playground. Like, it just didn't. It was too much. It was far too much.
Yeah, and that's why I really had a hard time buying into the whole Russian underground facility underneath Stardust Mall. Because, well, first of all, you mean to tell me this facility was built within 1 year after the whole events that happened at Hawkins Lab? I'm not buying that. There's no way you're going to build this type of an advanced facility within 12 months, okay? And then on top of that, you're going to tell me that, like you just said, a 10-year-old, a 13-year-old, and 17 and 18-year-old kids are going to go down into a Russian facility, sneak in there, and break each other out. Like, no. I thought where they missed a beat on the storytelling part of that, because it doesn't stay in continuity of what they started with in season 1, which is the small lab doing some weird, funky shit in town. They really should have kept to that. You didn't have to stay in the lab in season 3. You could have just moved it over to HMM, Hawkins Memorial Hospital. Yes, I know, Halloween 2. I got so many Halloween 2.
I know.
Did
you see it? Did you see it, Dave?
Yes, we saw it. We totally saw it. And I thought it was a great wink and nod. I mean, that was the first thing I saw when I saw the logo. I'm like, Halloween 2. Yeah. I felt what they should have done was set up something to where, like, okay, Will and Hopper and Joyce are ones who are still dealing with the effects of being in the upside down. So they're going to the hospital. The Russians maybe came up with some type of medical treatment to help them. And this is the facade that the Russians are putting on. But really, the Russians are starting to do some deep, research to find out if they can get back into the upside down to use the Demogorgon as a threat against the United States.
Right.
I feel like that's where that would have been more believable as far as the storytelling goes, because it just doesn't.
Interesting, yeah.
How do you build this facility underground in 12 months? Because unless it at all in the first.
Was it ever alluded to that facility may have been there for quite some time?
No, it just made it seem like that they were, that because the mayor, Carrie Hughes, whatever his name is, makes the deal with them to sell them the property.
Oh, right.
And all that stuff like that. it's like
I'd have to watch that part. I mean, I've only watched it all the way through once, so I'd probably have to watch that again and see how I feel about that. Yeah, the story. I mean, I will say that, like, yes, this season is very cinematic. The more successful you are, usually your budget goes up. You know, because obviously also payment goes up. Your budget has to go up because usually when you have something that is successful, whether you do a sequel to a movie or you do more seasons in a TV show, you usually have to, you know, your budget goes up because unless the actor is contractually obligated for several, which sometimes happens as well. But then usually it's built into the contract that you'll get paid this for the first season, and if we are successful, you'll get paid this for the second season, or, you know, whatever it is. And it usually always goes up. It doesn't go down. So, definitely this season is much more cinematic, much more, I don't want to say fast-paced because that gives the impression that maybe you might miss something. It's just better paced. It's nicely paced, whereas season 2 I found there were moments where I was almost bored. It was a slower paced season. But outside of that, I will say that there are a few things in season 3 that begin to kind of wear tired. And we're once again dealing with, you know, the Upside Down, or we're dealing with the Mind Flayer, and, you know, we're dealing with, right, you know, and it's just kind of like, for example,
no mention of 8 at all, which really makes her character.
No, see, and that's disappointing to me because I understand that that episode 7, I believe it was, the Lost Sister from season 2 is usually
no purpose now.
Yeah, is usually everybody's it's usually everybody's least favorite, okay? And it tends to it actually is one of my favorite from season 2 because it introduced something new. Now, I do think there are valid criticisms of that episode because it does happen very late in the season. You open the entire season 2 now, with 8, right? And with her, you know, gaggle of friends, let's say, right? And all that. But then we never go back to that until like 6 episodes later. And you kind of take us over here on this. It felt like very disjointed. And then you throw us back in. And like, I think it would have worked better if who 8 was and who her friends were, what was a subplot throughout season 2. Yeah. I think because then we wouldn't have felt disjointed. But I commend them for introducing something new. Oh, so she's 11. It's not just like a stamp, you know, there's more of them. Why
are we not tapping into this?
That's interesting to me. There's more of them out there. It opens it up a little bit. It makes the universe bigger, not smaller. So, but at the same time, I do understand that part of the identity of Stranger Things is that small town, Midwest, you know, claustrophobic, and you don't want to lose that either. But having said that, we then go on to season 3. There's no mention of the Lost Sister, and I think that's primarily, I don't think they're ever going to, maybe they might go back to it in season 4 if they're going to wrap everything up. But if they never do, then it's a little it's a little sloppy to me. Sloppy. Yeah, no, you made your bed, now you've got to lie in it. I mean, you introduced this. I understand that the vast majority of people probably didn't like it, but then, well, I mean, you know, you just abandon. And to be fair, that story did have a beginning, middle, and an end, but they're still out there.
Right.
So I feel like she should come into contact with her again at some point. But anyway, the point I'm making is that a lot of season 3 felt there were some tired themes again. I liked it much better than season 2, but I found that there was a couple of, not as redundant as season 2 to 1, but still just kind of some themes where I'm like, okay, we've been here, we've done that. Did you find that a little bit, or?
In some aspects, yeah, you know, I almost said the Demogorgon, but the Mind Flayer, right? Is that what they call it?
Mind Flayer, yeah.
I know that's a D&D reference.
I think so, yeah. I haven't played, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that Dustin talks about in season 2, and he starts talking about it and introduces that whatever that is to Dungeons and Dragons. I don't like Dave. Right. I don't know. So yeah, bringing it back into the real world versus to the Upside Down. Okay. You know, I bought into it, you know, but I felt like this is where, again, this is what would have been a great setup for 8 to come in to help
Right.
11 when 11 loses her powers. You know, you have this kind of, you know, episodic moment where 8 to the rescue, and she's saving her sister from this, you know, monster that's kicking their ass inside the mall. You know, that was a total door opening.
It's an idea. It's an idea.
I just felt like there was opportunities that I felt like I get it. The 80s was over the top, but I felt like with the storytelling that they've been doing, like you said, the first 2 seasons, everything was kind of compact, small town. Now all of a sudden we've got the Russians that have apparently been here for the last 20 years. Because again, like I said earlier,
right.
Convince me that they built this facility in less than 12. Was it 12 months from season 2 to 3? Is it about, or just is it shy of 12 months?
No. Well, in the actual narrative,
the timeline,
no, it's like no, it's from October, so it's like what is that? December?
Not even a year.
It's like 7 months or something.
Yeah, so you're telling me in 7 months that this facility that has no mention of it at all in the first 2 seasons, now it's here. And that's where I think it starts to lose, like you said, that small town charm, that mysterious building. What the fuck's going on there? Now, okay, right. Now we know, like, it's now what we're gonna pin it all on the Russians.
That's a good point. Like, again, I understand that you got to open it up, but I agree with you. It's at the beginning of season 3, we already knew who was behind it. We had an idea of what the issue was. We're going back to the gate, to the upside down again. You know, and it was just kind of like, oh, I was like, it's Stranger Things, not Stranger Thing. You know, it's obviously I'm being a little, you know, sarcastic, but I was hoping that maybe maybe the upside down is taken care of. And maybe and I understand that they built this over a thing, and to be fair, we hadn't yet seen the mind flare fully realized, right? We saw it lurking. Yeah, we saw it lurking on the horizon at the end of season 2, and definitely in moments in season 2. And it was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? Because it's not the Demogorgon, right? So it's like, whoa, this is really cool, you know? And we finally see it realized in this season. But I guess I was sort of hoping for things like, what if they I know it's kind of like, wow, what the fuck is with Hawkins, Indiana? But, you know, I mean, come on. I mean, you're already suspending your disbelief with everything that's going on anyway. But I thought maybe they discover a portal to somewhere else. Maybe there's another dimension, right? That has nothing to do with the upside down or the mind flare. And the kids, you know, they maybe Will's mom goes missing. No, that'd be too like, okay, now his mom goes missing. But maybe Mike's parents go missing or something. Or like, I'm just thinking that not to retread from season 1, but it just feels like I like season 3 a lot. I really do. But I found myself in moments going, I know what's going to happen. You know, I know what they're doing.
Exactly.
And in season 1, I had no idea. Like that episode when Hopper goes into the spoiler alert if you haven't seen season 1. But anyway, when he goes into the like where Will's dead body is, right? And he pulls him out of the wall and he cuts into him only to find out that it's a fake body full of stuffing, but it looks identical to Will. That I remember when I watched that episode, I was like, oh, that's so good. I suspected that it probably wasn't Will that was dead in the ravine or whatever it was, that maybe they were gonna but the fact that it was stuffing, it was like, oh, that's so creepy. That's Twilight Zone fucking shit. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh, and then when that episode ended, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is wild. Like, fucking bodies fake with stuffing, and this is crazy. Sure. I love that. And the subsequent seasons didn't have that mystery. We sort of, like, we as an audience were put in the same position as the characters in season 1. We didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what was going on. So we were on this journey together. In some, not all respects, but in some respects, we as viewers know kind of what's going on, and the audience doesn't in season 2 and 3, especially 3. We do, but the characters don't. So we're just watching them discover it rather than it's an interesting dichotomy, you know. But I just wish that maybe there was a little more originality somewhere, you know?
Yeah, I felt like there was times in this season that it started to become too 90210-ish. Love triangle, not love triangle, but love relationships. Joyce and
Right.
Hopper.
Yeah.
Are Joyce and Hopper going to hook up? Are Max and Lucas going to get back together? What's going on with Mike and 11? Like it became, and I understand they're getting to those ages. So yes, you do have to evolve these characters, and that's the reality of what the characters were doing. But it really began to lose its charm of that sci-fi fantasy world, small town, strange things happening in the small town. It's a little, like I said, a little, what it would be like if it was a Hick 90210. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's what it started to look like.
Yeah, exactly. And just to capitalize on the last thing I said there about kind of retreading, at the end of season 3, I think here's a amazing opportunity to introduce something completely new. And what do they introduce? The Demogorgon again.
Right.
And it's like, what are you doing?
Right.
No, but this time the Russians have, I don't care. It's that
right.
We've seen this before. Right? The only cool thing for me about that scene, and this is purely subjective, wasn't it's the Demogorgon again. Some people are going to feel like that. Oh, it's the Demogorgon again. No way. Oh, how cool. And then there are going to be the other side of the coin where it's like, what is that? Oh, it's the Demogorgon again. So the coolest thing for me about that end credit scene was, of course, when the guys are like, no, not the American, right? Because like, who is that? Presumably, it's probably Hopper. Hopper probably didn't die. So it's probably him, because throughout the whole season, the Russians referred to him as the American. So that's a bit of, that's a clue. So it's probably Hopper. But that was interesting. Here's your opportunity to feed this Russian guy to something we've never seen. Something else comes through that wall, and we're like, what the fuck is that? Like, do you remember when or whatever, we saw, I forget if it was in the trailers of season 2 or whatever it was, but we saw the mind flare like on the horizon and how it kind of looked all weird. Do you remember when you were like, what the fuck is that?
Right.
Like, oh shit, like what's going on? That's what I wanted with the end of season 3, was like, oh my God. No, we got the Demogorgon again. So the Russians have it. Now, again, that's maybe the Duffer brothers will figure out a way to write, maybe it'll be maybe it'll be a gaggle of Demogorgons and a gaggle of mind flayers. So it is bigger and it's more intense. And I don't know. I just thought it'd be cool if we found out at the end of season 3 if there was like a portal to somewhere, like somewhere completely different. Like maybe they figured out why not? Maybe the Russians figured out how to go back in time. And maybe like season 4 is all about like, you bring all the seasons together or some shit. Like, can you imagine? What the fuck? And then 11 sees herself as like a young girl. I don't know how you do it. I'm just, like that's the kind of shit I'm talking about. It's like, whoa. No, it's a Demogorgon again. So,
and I felt honestly with Hopper's scene there at the end, spoiler for those, because again, Dave and I are talking spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they were doing too much with Hopper sacrificing himself and Billy sacrificing himself. I really felt they should have committed to just one. And if you were going to commit to just one, Billy would have been the one that, because I felt it just Hopper's thing, like, but I knew they weren't going to kill him off. You know what I mean? It just didn't make sense to do that. And it really diminishes what happened to Billy. Because once Billy goes, I'm like, oh, well, that fucking sucks. He redeems himself by saving 11, which is great. But then the Hopper thing happens. You're like, what the fuck? And I just felt like, guys, you're doing way too much here. Keep it focused. Focus it on Billy. Let Joyce and Hopper save the day in the lab there and get their hightails out of there. And then you have Billy as, the sacrifice. I just felt like there's just too much sacrificing going on. And one just kind of washed the other, and it didn't have the impact with me like I know it had with a lot of people online that I saw within the few days after.
The only way Hopper's death is going to have impact is if he is dead. Because I think the reason why the Duffer brothers added the 2 there at the end is because at the end of season 1, who dies in season 1? Does anybody die in season 1? I forget now. Barb, right? Okay, yeah. Well, not at the end, but at the beginning, right? So Barb dies, and then of course season 2 they kill off Bob, which I thought was a mistake because I think Sean Astin was a great character and a better fit for Winona Ryder. And we'll get to actually how I feel about Hopper and Joyce in a second, but and I guess because they're pretty expendable, Barb is expendable, Bob was expendable. Right, well, we got to kill somebody. Well, let's kill Bob, like that kind of thing. And in season 3, between Billy and Hopper, Billy is the more expendable one. Right. So I think they felt like, oh God, we're killing another expendable person. Let's kill Hopper. Okay, cool. But did you kill him? Because if you're going to pull a Marvel and you're just going to bring him back. Now listen, Hopper, is my favorite character on the show. And at least one of my favorite characters on the show.
Even after season 3? I have mixed feelings on how they did his arc in season 3.
Well, yeah, no, I like his character, not necessarily the whole arc or whatever, but I like who he is as a character.
No, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is that, so I don't want him to die. I mean, of course I don't want him to die. I didn't want Han Solo to die. Harrison Ford is my favorite actor. Han Solo and, Indiana Jones, iconic, right? I didn't want Han Solo to die, but after seeing The Force Awakens, I wasn't, one of those fanboys. I was like, yeah, you fucking, they just killed Harrison Ford because he just wanted Han Solo to die. No, they killed him because it served the story and the symbolism that's in that scene. We've talked about this all the time, right? Yeah. So I walked away going, I understood why he had to die. It served the story. It was Kylo Ren's test, right? He had to prove to everybody that he was badass enough to do it because nobody takes him seriously. It's a whole thing I could go into, but anyway. So I'm okay with that. Imagine if they just brought Harrison Ford back. Now a lot of people would be excited about that, but I'd be like, well, why? Don't do that, because then it waters down the sacrifice, right? So Hopper left that terminal area where he was with Joyce to fight the Russian, right? He sacrificed himself to make, even though it was, she's there with the belt and she's trying to hold on. If it wasn't for Hopper, they might not have done it. So he sacrificed himself. And I'm selfish. So part of me wants him to come back. But at the same time, I think it would be I got to admit, a pretty awesome, ballsy move to have him not come back. And then that makes the ending monologue of the interior voice monologue that 11 is hearing, right, in Hopper's words as she's reading the paper, it makes it that much more powerful. It makes it so powerful, and so I think it would be best to actually have, to serve the story, I think maybe Hopper should stay dead, because then you're like, oh shit, and then you don't get the thing that you're talking about, right, Tony?
No, I agree. And again, Hopper's, saving the day moment there really had no impact on me, because I'm coming off of Billy saving 11, and I'm like, fuck, well, that was pretty solid. That was pretty cool. Now I'm like, oh wait, now Hopper. But then you get the post-credit scene there at the end of the season. And like you said, throughout the whole season, they're referring to him as the American. And it's just obvious. There's just no way, because like you said, David Harbour, I mean, he's one of the anchors. Like him and Winona are two of the big anchors to this show. They're not going to get rid of them. And that's why the whole love dance that they were doing in this season, like that's the one thing that I didn't like about his arc in this story. Because if you look at his arc in the first 2 seasons, he's just very like John Wayne, tough guy type, not like over tough guy though, you know what I mean? But just very cool. You know what I mean? Not like he doesn't get super excited. He's just like, very level headed. Okay, there's a problem. Let's solve it. Let's figure out what's going on. Right. This episode, he kind of became booty whipped, and he wasn't getting the booty. You know what I mean? Right. And I'm like, this is really very extreme that you're going with his character, when his character in the first 2 seasons, he was dating some girl in the first, when you saw that, he was with some girl who basically he didn't really care. I mean, he cared, but he didn't show that type of, love and affection. Now, all of a sudden, he's acting as if like, he's whipped around Joyce's finger and shit. And it's just like, well, how did we get here with his arc? It's not making any sense. And that's why I was like, I didn't buy into that. I don't mind if they're going to have a love interest, but don't turn him into this blubbering idiot, which I think personally was intentionally done because that's how a lot of male characters are being written now in 2019.
Yeah, I think, like, I mean, obviously it's supposed to take place in the 80s, and I understand the whole dynamic of having him in a Hawaiian shirt with a mustache and the Magnum PI thing, and
I get that.
yeah, but you're right. I've said this before season 3 came out. I said, as much as I know hardcore fans, not everybody, but there's a fair amount of them that really want Hopper and Joyce to get together. And I understand that. This is a fantasy world. And I guarantee you, if Hopper is not dead, Joyce and Hopper will get together. That's part of their arcs. And it's a predictable arc. There's nothing original about it.
No.
We've seen those themes run many times throughout many shows and movies, and they do it because it works. You like the characters, you want to see them together, and it works. You build a little bit of sexual tension there, whatever the case is. But I will admit,
I'm cool with the sexual tension. I'm just, the whole like sick love puppy, tail between the legs. I'm lost and I'm infatuated with this woman that I haven't even gone out on a date with yet. Yeah, I wasn't because of how they presented Hopper to me in the first 2 seasons. I just felt like it was very opposite to contrast to who the character that I liked in the first 2 seasons to where he is now.
Right. No, I understand. And I said from the very beginning, in reality, I don't think Joyce and Hopper would end up together with any sort of longevity. Now, that doesn't mean they couldn't, have a fling and maybe they sleep together for a bit, but longevity, it's difficult to buy because Joyce's character is far too neurotic and Hopper's character is far too independent and, a manly man. Like,
controlling.
Yeah, and Joyce is the kind of, like, she's the kind of person, where are you going? What are you doing? What's going on? What time are you going to be home? And Hopper's the kind of guy that doesn't like that. He needs his space. He needs his independence. And the fact that, like, they tried to bill all the, the bickering back and forth as, like, sexual tension, right? Well, it's like, but what relationships at the end of the day are thriving, successful relationships that start with that level of, and it's like, I mean, I get what they're doing. I understand what they're doing. I admit there was some nice, charming moments between them. I get it. But I think it would have worked best if it was a legitimate friendship. They've known each other maybe since childhood, and maybe it's
they obviously went to school together.
They went to school. Yeah, that's right. They went to school together. Maybe at one time there might have been something that they thought about, but they've moved on, and they just have it's like a brother-sister relationship now, and it's a very profound, deep respect for each other, rather than playing into this. It's like they're playing into the typical 80s female male cop dynamic of shows like Hunter and Magnum PI, and like you play into that where like there's like the male cop has a female partner and they're always trying to they're bickering back and forth, and you suspect there's some sexual tension there, and then by the end of the 9th season they get together. That's what they're doing. But it's hard for me to buy that these people would not drive each other fucking insane.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like Hopper would just be like, "Oh my God, Joyce, I'm just going bowling. Fuck off." Like you could totally see him doing that. And so
which I thought it was great too when they had the little wink and nod when they brought Bob back briefly and they're watching Cheers. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Bob, like in reality, this is not reality, but in reality, Bob actually is the better fit for Joyce because he's the stable constant in her otherwise neurotic, unstable life.
Right.
So although he might not be the most handsome, the most manly man, he is that stable, or was that stable constant in her life that she needed, that support that she needed. It's not to say that Hopper's all bad. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying that Bob was a better fit. So if Hopper and Joyce get together at the end of season 4 or whatever it is, I could totally see those,
Well,
that's
I mean,
that's
the
not
writing
a
on the
forever
wall is
relationship.
for it. No, the writing on the wall is for it because Joyce has got 11. 11 is Hop's daughter now. He adopted her.
Right.
So you just kind of see this nuclear family kind of forming together,
Right.
and riding off in the sunset together. At the end, again, they. If I could say one thing about Stranger Things now, it's become Stranger Things predictable. Again, going back to earlier in the stream when I saw episode 1, I knew immediately, like I said, I called it with Robin's sexuality and the dynamic between Robin and Steve. I knew that Steve was going to end up liking her, and then she's going to have this moment where, oh, Steve, this is me. And, they're going to develop this, really great friendship with each other afterwards. Yeah. I saw that 11 and Mike were going to have to be split up, and that was going to lead to Max and 11, forming this friendship. And once again, belittling men, talking down about men. You don't need to have a boyfriend. What does 11 say to him, Mike, at one point? I make my own rules now. I felt like a lot of times Stranger Things was playing a lot to the 2019 PC card versus to what the 80s would have been like, because the 80s would not have been like that. I'm sorry. You can say what you want, but that is not the way the mindsets of just how people were back then. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying women can't have independence and women can't be free thinkers, and I'm not saying women weren't doing it then. I'm just saying overall in the general space of it, they were treading a lot at times on what was currently going on. I mean, the Russian thing. I mean, obviously, if you live in the United States, the last 2 years, all you've heard has been nothing about Russian probes and Russians messing with the elections and all this stuff.
Well, to be fair, Russia was a big deal in the 80s because of the Cold War. So that is something that's 80s.
I get that, but I felt like a lot of this was like, they were pulling, I mean, look at what Netflix is doing now. This is how sensitive we've become.
Oh, you're talking about the smoking thing, right? Yeah.
Smoking thing.
Yeah, no, I disagree with that. I disagree.
Like, are you freaking look, I'm not telling people you should be smoking. I'm not promoting it. It's a bad habit. It's disgusting. It's horrible. But now, because we're such a sensitive culture that you're going to have your two lead characters, Winona Ryder and David Harbour, no longer smoking because people are too sensitive about it. It's like,
well, I think
my God.
I think what Netflix said was they obviously don't want to intervene into the freedom of expression and creativity, and so you don't want. I mean, look, it's. I believe
we have no freedom of creativity anymore.
No, but I mean that I believe, it has to be. I think Stranger Things will probably be okay because it's relevant to the period, and it's relevant to the character. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to try and maybe next season Hopper quit smoking because he survived and he has a whole new,
perspective on life,
coming of Jesus moment kind of thing. But I disagree with it. I think if you are unnecessarily having kids or smoke, okay, fine. But at the end of the day,
different. Yeah.
Yes. But at the end of the day, I mean, this was the 1980s and a lot of people smoked. My whole family smoked. I didn't smoke, but I get it.
Much it was the thing,
it's part of the character, and Netflix better not get in the way of that because you can't. I mean, you cannot do that. Look, if somebody wants to make a movie with a 4-year-old smoking, I get it. But when you're making a movie that takes place in the mid 80s and you have people smoking or the 50s or the 60s, whatever it is, it's part of the character. It's part of the culture. It's part of how things were. So I disagree with that, and I think Netflix has got to grow a pair, but obviously that's not going to happen.
Again, it's that PC culture, and again that's what I felt like. What this season was really tapping into really wasn't the 80s. They were really talking about a lot of stuff that was currently going on. And that's why I called it with Robin's character. I knew where they were going with that because again, they're catering to that politically correct crowd. And then you get some of these, nuts out here that are pissed off of Hopper's character being too masculine. Did you see some of that? I was just like, what do you mean he's being?
No,
he's acting like a little.
I didn't say that. I didn't see that at all. Really? God,
yeah,
that's stupid. That's stupid.
This chick on Twitter, it was a big story. She's got like 500,000 followers, and she's like, Hopper's character is too masculine, and breaking into Eleven's door, and whatever, and making the mistake, obviously being 11 and Max there. But at the time, he was drunk, and I understand, but I didn't think he was being over masculine, but this is the culture we're in, is like they're ruining the freedom of the creativity of what they can do with these characters now, because I'd hate to be the Duffer Brothers now going into season 4, looking at the storyboard in the rooms and going, okay, well, we can't do this now. Oh, no, we can't do this now.
Right. Yeah, it
like,
does.
Man, if you're part of that PC bullshit, man, seriously, like, jump off a cliff, because you're just ruining the art of creativity.
It does. It can become a problem. I wanted to ask you, what were some of your highlights of season 3 for you? Like when you think of season 3, what are some of your highlights?
They nailed it with Starcourt. Of course, that's a personal thing, because I literally live a quarter mile from Starcourt, which is the Gwinnett Place Mall.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So the cool thing is like, okay, so at the very end, when I call him Mad About You, when the Mad About You, because he played on Mad About You, the TV show, when the doctor shows up and he comes off the helicopters. In the background,
Paul Reiser.
In the background, you see cars driving on. I live off of that road, so it was pretty cool. Like, hey, I know where that is.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool. I loved how they did up the mall. It took me right back. For some reason though, and I used to go to the mall a lot, I don't remember it being that packed. I mean, it was the place for teens and kids to hang out. I just don't remember it being that busy, like a small town mall, and living, and being from a small town in Connecticut. Yeah, we would always go and hang out at the malls and stuff, but I don't, except on the weekends. Yeah, it would be busy and whatnot. But I don't remember it being just like that. I love seeing some of the old storefronts like Sam Goody's and some of the other things that they brought into the mall. So that was really, really cool. What other things that I like about this season? I liked, how Billy, the development of his character. I thought, he did a phenomenal job, being, I guess the villain, you can say, spoiler if you haven't seen that far along into season 3. Let's see, what else did I like? It's hard, because I got to tell you, it's funny. I'm reverse with you. I still like season 1 and 2 better, because I felt season 1 and 2, the vibes of the show were very similar. It felt like the same show. Season 3, I didn't feel like they were in Hawkins anymore at times.
Right, I felt like what you're saying.
A lot of it just seemed like it was just, again, and I get it. When you get more money, you get bigger, you get, whatever. Sometimes bigger isn't always better. You know what I mean? Sometimes, keeping it simple always tends to, less is always more. I've said this to people many times on Instagram when they're like, hey, dude, you should add blood to your photos. I'm like, doesn't need it. It doesn't, the suggestion is there. You know what I'm trying to say. You don't need it. And I felt like at times in season 3, you didn't need to go very far with it. And they went far with it. That's why I said, like, I'm having a hard time believing when Dustin and Steve and Erica and Robin are sneaking into this Russian facility that's underground in the mall. And it's like, nah, I'm not buying that.
I think there's always, and look, I mean, at the end of the day, Stranger Things, I mean, it's a kids show. And now when I say kids show, I don't mean little kids show. I just mean that I mean, that's why adults like us love it. It's not because the content is sophisticated or cerebral or, no, it's because it reminds us of watching The Goonies in 1985. And that's what it is. So, I mean, it's tapping into the children in us. And so, like, I agree. I think there's in season 3, there was a lot of humor. There were some cheesy moments. Some of the things I really like. I will say I do love. I would say I love. Like I give credit where credit is due. I like the look of the Mind Flayer. I like the look of it as well. I love the invasion of the Body Snatchers angle, where of course the flayed is all the people that are under its control, and they all, walk to that place, and they fall and become this goo, and they all become this one big. I love that, because and one of my favorite endings of season 3 of an episode is when Billy sees himself. Right? And there's all those people that are walking. Oh, the low-key lighting and the light and shadow and the silhouette and the fog and shit. My girlfriend is sitting beside me, And she's like, you put that fog in there, right? And I'm like, that's right. Totally how I would shoot that scene. And because moody, atmospheric, and when that happened, I was like, oh, who is this? What's going on? Because Invasion of the Body Snatchers is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So I love that. Now, it's a 70s film, not an 80s film, but I love that. And so I love that angle too, because that adds some mystery to it, right? I had to watch the next episode. It was like, what the fuck's going on? It's like Twilight Zone shit. You know what I mean? I love that. I love that element about Stranger Things. And I like, I like seeing, the one thing I wanted to, maybe I did say this. No, I did say it already. Okay, yeah. I like the fact that they wove the children's ages into the whole narrative, not just a throwaway scene. Maybe the scene where Hopper's like, I said 3 inches, and he goes over to the door and he opens the door and they're like, what? And that tells, the excuse me, the audience, oh, they're teenagers now, they're kissing, but dad doesn't like it. Just let you know, this is where we're at. It wasn't just that scene and that was it. No, the whole teenage thing, like it or not like it, was woven through the story. So that's good. It's not like that throwaway line in Halloween H2O where it's like, they never found his body, and that was it. And you didn't, there's no, we don't know how he survived the fire. We don't. Yeah, that's your explanation, right? Or in Halloween, 2018, that's just some rumor that people made up about Laurie and Michael being brother and sister. It's like, oh, that's it. Okay, now on to the next thing, right?
Don't even get me started with that bullshit.
I get it. I understand it. You don't have a lot of time. I understand it. But with television, you have much more time to expand the story and the narrative. So it was nice to see their ages factored into where they are at this point in their lives. So I like that. I like the battle of, Starcourt Mall and the fireworks and shit. That was a lot of fun. I like Hopper. I do like Hopper in this season because I like seeing his arc, but there's the dynamic between Joyce and Hopper, and it's kind of like, okay, we get it. But,
character, you know what I mean? It was very.
I understand what you're saying. Character. Yeah. I did like. I will say, when I saw the trailer and they alluded to the fact that Billy was going to be the host. I remember, and I said this online. I said, it seems so predictable. He's so expendable, and I was worried that it wasn't going to be a strong enough host, that maybe they should have somebody that we really, because nobody really at the end of the day gives a fuck if Billy dies or not. However, the way they wrote his arc was nice, and they allowed the audience, I would like to say, to have a little bit of empathy for the character.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that was important because if Billy was just a fucked up, very few children and teenagers are the way they are because they're evil, unless you're Michael Myers, Dave. But you know what I'm talking about. Usually, it's a cross between nature versus nurture, and a lot of the times it's the environment that children grow up in, and all that kind of stuff can have an effect. Now, that's not an excuse. Eventually, you get to an age where you start making your own, decisions, and I don't give a frog's fat ass what kind of horrible life you had. I'm sorry you had that, and that's awful. You didn't deserve that. But that doesn't mean you get to treat everybody like fucking shit for the rest of your life. And that's what Billy was doing. So it was a really interesting balance that they had to, how do we present empathy for this character so our audience isn't just waiting for Billy to go, because everybody hated Billy in season 2. He was a fucking dick. And then we find out that here's why. And they were able to add a little bit of empathy. So it helped me as a viewer kind of go, okay, I still would have explored other options, but I get what they were doing here. And props to the actor. Fantastic performances. Very talented guy. Very talented young man. I think he's 24 or 25. Extremely talented.
Dagger, I'm telling you, Dagger and Maya Hawke, who played Robin, those two, man, their careers are about to take off. And especially Maya. She's going through the fucking roof. Her performance as Robin was phenomenal. Same thing with Dagger's performance. I don't know if I'm saying his name right.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, he's got an interesting name.
He totally carried that arc throughout the whole season on his back, and he delivered. He didn't sell it short. He just came through and knocked that fucker out of the park.
He was great. He was
there
great.
There were some moments with 11 and Millie Bobby I thought were cool with her abilities. Again, I still would like to see them bring back some of the things that they referenced in season 1 that they haven't tapped into, because I think there's more with her abilities, even though they're temporarily disabled, because they're coming back. I think we all know they're coming back at some point. But, as far as other things that I liked about the show, again, as I just touched on it, I really did like Robin Meyerhawk's character. I hooked onto her real quick, and she blended right in with, the rest of the cast very easily, didn't seem awkward at all. And, as far as the rest of them, Will was Will. Oh, if anybody hasn't seen our first, season 1 and 2, see Stranger Things, what did I call? What did I say about Steve losing 2 fights 2 weeks ago? And of course, they referenced it,
They did.
And
yes, they did. That's right.
It's like, you guys, man, at least Steve had his redeeming moment,
Yeah, and it's unfortunate.
Like, hey, you won one, like.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that I was taken out of many scenes with them because of Erica, and there were many scenes with Erica that I absolutely love because she's adorable. But she's a great
young kid actor too.
Absolutely, but the way they wrote her character, quipping and joking every chance she got, like, okay, like I said earlier in the show, I wanted to see some vulnerability. I wanted to see that moment where this little 10-year-old girl goes, "Oh, this is real," and then that gives Dustin a moment to have sort of a heart to heart. And it doesn't mean that Erica loses her character. Now, from that point on, there's no joke at all and she's not herself. No, I don't mean that. I just mean that something that doesn't end with a punchline, something that doesn't end with a quip. Because I got to the point where I was like, I hope they leave her to the Russians. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, I can't stand this character. She's so annoying. And you wouldn't be that, like, why is she so annoying, but Lucas isn't? He's not like that. Like, she was, even in season 2, well, if that's what, like, okay, guys, reel it in. Like, have her do that over certain things, but she's still a 10-year-old child, and she's never been in this environment before. I need to see her scared. I need to see her concerned, something. Anyway, so that, and that at moments took me out of the dynamic, the otherwise enjoyment of the dynamic that I was having between Robin, Steve, and Dustin. Now, I will say the whole gay angle with Robin was
I called it. I knew that was coming. I didn't think one way or another, but I will say it has nothing to do with her being gay. I'm just talking about whether it feels organic or not to the situation. Honestly, I felt it was a cheap pop. And when I mean by a pop,
it felt a little bit like that. It felt a little bit like that.
A pop, for those that don't know, in WWE or WWF, a pop is when the wrestler comes through and it's going to get a loud cheer. Austin, The Rock, those guys usually tentatively get the biggest pops of all time. And I felt like that they were going for that LGBTQZXYZ community and to have something in there to get a reaction like, yay, we got something for you guys. Because you're right. I didn't feel like it was organic. I felt like they were putting it in there to serve a PC purpose. I'm not saying that you can't have it, but when you intertwined it with everything else the undertones that were going on in this season, I was just like, okay, we got another thing that we're adding to the table here, and we're going to service this group, and we're going to service this group. Because, again, like I said, not too long ago, I could not make a movie or even make any type of television series today because I don't know who I'm going to offend and who do I need to cater to and make sure I make this person happy or this group of people happy or make sure that, women are happy because we're dumbing down the men. You know what I mean? I just felt like there was a lot of that shit that was going on in here that even though, yes, it's the 1980s, this season felt like 2019 with everything that was going on.
Yeah, I understand. I have to say, I don't think I felt it as much as you, but I will say this about Robin's character. I think the reason why I felt that it was a slightly a cheap move, even though I know progressives are loving it, and I don't get into politics here on this channel, obviously, but I understand that it's having a gay character, whatever. Okay, yeah, I get it. But it felt like a cheap move because and again, there's two things. I understand creatively why they executed it this way because they have to keep it from the audience so the audience is surprised. I understand that. But then it's a catch-22. When you look at the scene, you think to yourself, there's no way that she would be talking like this at all. Like when they're lying on the floor and she's talking about
the truth serum and all that stuff. Right.
Right. And how but now she's talking about how I used to see you in class and I used to see this, that. The way they wrote the way they wrote her lines and the way now, okay, I guess she was thinking of that other girl that you liked, but the way they wrote it and executed it and delivered it, hands down, makes you believe that she's talking about Steve.
Exactly.
And of course, they want you to think that because then that makes the payoff what it is. But then I go back and I go, but you wouldn't be talking like that. You wouldn't be going, I remember when I saw you come in and I just was like, you wouldn't do that. You would say, no. You would immediately reference something about the girl in some sort of way. And so I felt a little sort of used in some ways. I was kind of like, oh, it has nothing to do with, it could have been reversed. Maybe she's revealing that she's straight. Like, I don't care what you're revealing. It's just, the reveal felt a little,
start with it. You know what I mean?
It felt a little shoehorned in.
Exactly. Rather than just coming to the gate, you kind of know right from the get-go. Well, I mean, I knew. I just kind of just had that sense about
maybe there's maybe there's a scene where a girl comes into the ice cream shop and there's a moment and Steve sees that or whatever. Yeah, something like that. It feels much more organic that way.
Instead of having this like John Hughes moment in the bathroom,
Right.
It's like that's what it felt like. It felt like he was like
I got to admit, and again, I know we're talking about a lot of the things that we're kind of like overall, I think Tony and I agree. We really like this season. I think it was a solid season and it was a lot of fun to watch. And there's a lot of things that we really like. But there's certain moments where because you're opening it up and you're getting bigger, you can't help, kind of think like Leah and I are sitting there, we're watching this and we're like, okay, you're like shit's going on. And these guys are laughing hysterically in the bathroom on the floor. It's like, what do you got? Like, I'd be fucking like, what are you doing? Like, the world is ending and you guys are, and I know that they're still trying to get that truth serum out of them, but it was just, and then you're taking a moment when it's out of you to kind of have this John Hughes moment.
Right.
The fuck are you doing? Get up, get out of the bathroom, get out of there, So, it was just kind of funny. It's like, I don't think you would be taking that moment.
I don't think we don't dislike the season. I think it's the timing and the execution of when they delivered shit.
Certain shit.
Right.
Certain shit. Yeah, not all shit, but
I just felt like that moment with Robin, like I get what they were going for, but I just didn't really need it. Like I said a moment ago, I would have came out the gate running strong with it. Okay, this is where her character stands. All right, cool. Let's continue on because you're right. The world is fucking ending, but we're going to have this John Hughes moment in the bathroom. We're going to be laughing about it. And a 14 or how's Dustin, 13 and a 10-year-old are going to come in and be
he's 15 now or whatever.
Right. These two younger kids are going to be the ones that are level-headed and all that. It's just like, oh, come on, But all in all, the Easter eggs were great. The Cheers Easter egg, I love. The Hawkins Memorial Hospital wink nod to Halloween 2. That was great.
Yeah, the HMH. No, I saw that immediately, and I was like, oh, I get it. Cute, it was fun.
So, the oversaturation and bombastic of the 80s was definitely, music again was absolutely on
music
point.
Is fantastic. Really like
the music in this season better.
I think so. I like the Arnold Schwarzenegger Russian guy.
Oh, that was
clearly the Terminator. You know what I mean? Yep. Yeah. I liked him. I liked. I mean, there's one thing. Okay. I want to say this. A criticism I have is you really have to. I mean, listen. Jonathan Byers got the ever-loving shit kicked out of him, and he's walking around at the end of the show like he's been scratched. Like he was hit over the back with a fucking... He was hit over the back with a steel chair. He was thrown into walls. He was, and there's a little bit of maybe some wear and tear on him. But he's like fucking He-Man. Like at least Steve... when he was punched in the face by all these guys, at least he was knocked unconscious and you could see him with a big, black eye and blah, blah, blah. I just was kind of like Leah said that too. It was like, what are you like? What the hell are you doing? Right? Like, why are you like? It just seems so weird, and it's like I thought maybe he should have a limp or something. And the other thing I want to say too is 11 was getting to the point. I love 11. Who doesn't like 11? We all love 11. Very talented young actress. However, in this season it was at the point where I was like, okay, is there going to be any resistance here with her character? Because she's Luke Skywalker. And It's almost like the other characters are irrelevant. All you need is 11 there to tear shit up, because even the Mind Flayer was no match for her. Like, It was like, I thought for sure the Mind, like, she was tearing that bitch apart. And that moment when the Mind Flayer attacked the cabin and had 11 by the leg and was going to pull her out, and all her friends are like, no, and they're trying to hold on to her. I was like, oh, yes, please. Pull her out of the house, because I wanted, maybe she goes missing for like an episode or two, right? And they're like, fuck, where's 11? Now the stakes go up. Now the kids are all vulnerable. The kids are not vulnerable when you have fucking Luke Skywalker there that just uses his Jedi powers and tears shit up. And it was kind of like, I wanted some resistance. So finally, by the last episode, 11 is out of commission because of her leg and her powers are gone. So I'm like, okay, but I think maybe they should have you could have, let's say, introduced that earlier in the season and really raised the stakes. It's like, oh my God, like 11 loses her powers in like episode 4 or something, right? So now, and maybe she goes missing. And it's like, shit, where is she? Fuck, my God, we don't have 11. And now the kids have to band together. But every time something would happen, 11 just goes... And then my girlfriend was kind of laughing, and she's like, why does she have to get all intense before she does it? It was just a funny thing. Like, she's always like, 11, and she's like, yeah, okay, I'm here. It's like she's got to get like, she's got to lower her, she's got to always, even just doing silly things like opening a door, like the door will open, right? And she'll be there like this, and then she'll walk in. It's like she gets all fucking intense, you know what I mean? But
I often wonder if the Duffer Brothers are there behind the cameras, like, hey, Millie, can you just look like you want to take a big dump, like honestly, like, because that's what she looks like when she's, doing her thing, man. Like, no, we need to look more like constipated. Come on, girl.
Right. Like, I love her character, and I love this character that was, that was molded this way, and she's a product of, the MK Ultra shit, and she was going to be used as a weapon by the whatever. Like, I love this character and the telekinesis and the powers. It's great, but man, it was getting to a point where it was like, she's indestructible. And it's just, who are you going to call? Call 11, and it was nice to finally see some resistance, but because it came in like episode 7, I was like, oh, well, things are going to be okay because we're ending in a minute. Like I would have loved to have had more of, oh no, shit, like earlier on. So that was a little bit of a criticism. It's nice to see that her powers are still gone by the end of the show. I like that. She's probably going to get them back. But I like that. That's good. Sure. Okay, so at this very moment, she's powerless. Good. I like that. And maybe we'll see a bit more of an arc because she's powerless. She'll have to learn to lean on more human instincts and qualities, which will allow her to become more human. Because one of the themes we see with her character throughout is the fact that she doesn't understand certain things. She's even more socially awkward and underdeveloped than Will, because she doesn't even know what a roller coaster's like, right? She doesn't know what this means or that means or what, that is, or a mall. She's never been to a mall or whatever. So it's nice to see that maybe she'll become a little more human, Maybe that's the way they're going. Maybe 11 will eventually become just a regular girl. That might be interesting.
Maybe. I felt Jonathan and Nancy were kind of throwaways in this season. Their arc, I liked it, but I didn't. You know what I mean? I had issues with the arcs of their storylines. And look, I mean, that's tough to manage especially when you're breaking the cast up. And you're breaking up even the kids now too, because Dustin wasn't really with his buddies. I mean, until the very end. You know, I mean, he's off hanging with Steve pretty much for the whole, you know, for the whole run of the 8 episodes. So I get it. When you've got all these multiple things happening and you're writing these different storylines, I just, Jonathan and Nancy, just their story arcs felt very, in storylines felt, or lines, not lines as far as lines, but line, just fell short for me. I don't know. Like, how did you feel about their story arcs?
Yeah, I will say this. The one thing that Stranger Things does very well is all of the characters are really well developed. And, you know, one of the risks you run when you have an ensemble and you break up that ensemble, especially in movies because you don't have as much time, but one of the risks you run when you're telling a story where everybody is broken up and you're bouncing in between stories is you run the risk of, and usually it happens anyway, but one subplot will be much more interesting than another. So when you're watching like Joyce and Hopper, you're like really emotionally invested and you know what's going on. And then when you cut away to like, you know, Jonathan and Nancy, you're like, you know, and you're doing this or whatever. And I have to admit, although there were a few subplots that I was interested a little more, all of them I didn't find myself going, oh fuck, can we get back to the kids now? Can we get back to which is good. That's good. But I do agree that everybody's broken up. And of course they all come together at the end of the season in the mall. I just don't know if I found Jonathan and Nancy's subplot story, even though she was the one that helped to break the story. I think the cartoonish nature of the people working at the paper, you know, like, and I understand that's a creative choice. Like they're being satirical and going overboard to make a point. Like often I do on my channel, right? Sometimes people, it takes a bit to get used to my humor.
Top man guys, you
right,
know,
right. I've had people think that I'm being serious or that I'm being very arrogant or whatever. It's like, no, I'm being like a cartoon, right? To make a point. So when I'm watching it though, and you got Jake, you know, Busey and all these people sitting there going, yeah, that's the way it's gonna be, woman. It was like, what's his face from Spider-Man there, the you know, the newspaper guy with the, what the hell is his name, with
oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like him. Like everybody was an archetype of that. You know, real. Well, just go out and get the story, man. It's like Freddy Krueger or something. But you know, it's like everybody was like so misogynistic and so over. And it's not that didn't exist, and it's not that didn't exist in that kind of an environment. And maybe in a small town it might be more so, but it was very cartoony. And so sometimes it was a little difficult to get into their story because Nancy and Jonathan were very serious. Right. And it's not like Nancy and Jonathan were cartoony as well. No, they were like very serious. So it made Jake Busey, you know, where he's going, well, that's the way it is. It's like nobody would do that. No, you know, so yeah, so it took me a bit to kind of warm up to their subplot. So I think I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think we both would agree, you know, in like anything, you know, as something develops, you know, when you get into sequels, you know, it's going to, you know, either it's going to get, well, one, it's going to get bigger. And I think that's one of the things that really hurts the charm of Stranger Things. Again, my approach from a storytelling point of view would have been not so much a Russian facility, but the Russians came here. The Russians are working out of Hawkins Memorial Hospital, like I said early on. They're putting on this fake facade of like, we're here to help. We know that there's stuff going on. We know what happened at Hawkins Lab. We want to help Joyce and Will and Hopper deal with the post-traumatic stress still that they're dealing with from the events of being in the Upside Down. But in actuality, there's this whole cover-up shit going on.
Right.
Because the Russians are trying to get the Upside Down reopened again and get the Demogorgon to use as a weapon against the United States. Having this whole facility under there, you just lost me out of this whole small town charm thing, you know, that I liked season 1 and 2. But again, that's just the nature of show business.
No,
now.
it is, and yeah, I think season 1 is still my favorite, and then comes season 3, and then season 2, and I liked it. I liked this season. I mean, of all the sort of things where like, oh, maybe they should have done this, maybe they should have done that. Overall, I think it was solid in terms of what you could do. It's different enough from season 2, but then again, if that's a catch 22, like you said, maybe it's a little too different for some people, right? But overall, I enjoyed it. I like where they went. I just thought that maybe they could have been a little more risky and taken a little more of a risk and maybe done something there. But I do like it. It's a solid season. And I like the development of the characters, which is good. We are progressing. Now, when it comes to continuing this show.
Well, wait, before you get to that, man, we haven't touched on one of the biggest things that happened in this season.
Oh my God, we didn't? What was?
Never-ending Story.
Oh, the never-ending. I'll tell you why it escaped my mind. I recognize that the Never-ending Story is a pop culture 80s phenomenon. I recognize that. I remember being a kid, as you do as well, Tony, in the 80s, and in class hearing kids, usually little girls, going, the never-ending story, because obviously it had just come out at that time. I remember that.
Back to school in the 80s.
But funny enough, the never-ending story wasn't a big movie in my life. I recognize its significance. I've seen the movie. It's a good movie. Recognize it. But it wasn't one of my big movies that was in my life. So when I saw the scene, I was like, oh, that's cute. Yeah, I like that. Okay, cute. But I wasn't losing my mind over it because I wasn't one of those kids that was going, the never-ending story. And I didn't have it on repeat, on my
Oh, no, I'm the same way. I have the movie on VHS, still in the old clamshell box that we bought back in the day. And yeah, I mean, I have it, but it was never like, I can't even remember the last time I watched the Never-ending. I mean, it's got to be close to 20 years. I mean, maybe even longer than that because we're in our 40s.
I haven't seen it in decades.
Easily. It's easily been, if it's been well over 20 years, if not, like you said, it may even be over 30 years. Since I've last seen that movie. I knew it, and you're right. Kids were singing it in the classroom when it first came out. But I don't know. I didn't really warm up to it like I warmed up to Freddy Krueger at 6-7 years old.
That's just it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was far more into Freddy and Jason and all that shit then. I didn't. Exactly. Yeah,
it was a big moment, one that everyone talked about.
It was.
I knew that kid could sing because that kid's been on Broadway for a really long time.
And so has Dustin as well. Apparently, I didn't know that, but Dustin can fucking sing too.
Oh yeah,
because I thought
Gaten, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Well, the girl has as well. Apparently.
Dustin, the kid who plays Dustin, he was in Les Mis, and I think he was in a couple other stuff. And he's got chops. Like he can really. He's got stage presence as well too. You can sense that with his acting ability.
Right, and the girl.
Yes. The overuse of the one-liner jokes that Erica was oversaturated with in this season. Dustin, the timing of his comedic and his one-liners has always been perfect. It's never been oversaturated.
That's right. Right.
And I wish, but fun season, good times.
Yeah, no, it was. It was a fun season, but definitely I can see it. And I hate to say this because I love me some 80s nostalgia, but I can see, okay, we're coming to the end now. And we're coming to the end for a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons is, of course, the kids are getting older, and they I've said this before, but I'll say it again for the people who are still watching. But season 1 season 1 takes place in the fall of 1983. Season 2 takes place in the fall of 1984. But season 3 takes place only 7 or 8 months later in the summer of 85. So everything that happens in season 1, everything that happens in season 2, and everything that happens in season 3 all takes place within like 20 months of each other. And unfortunately,
and now you have kids who are now 16, 17 years old.
Well, and here's the thing. The growth that happened between the actors between season 1 and season 2 looks legit, looks appropriate. Right. But the kids in season 3 are far older and more mature than they are they would have been normally for like 7 months to go by.
7 months.
Yeah. So now, are you going to wait another, like, are they going to start shooting season 4 this time next year? Or are they, like, I mean, because you grow so much in that period of time. Well,
I would start it now and just bump the timeline up, move it from 85 to move it up to maybe 87. Maybe they're sophomores or juniors in high school.
I think that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to skip over 86, and they're going to have to go to 87 or even 88 because I mean, it's so, like, the kids are going to be so old, and with that you lose the what was the fundamental identity and foundation of the show, and that is it's the kids being kids, and the sense of adventure and the shenanigans of riding your bikes and, you know, all this kind of stuff. That is, it's the Goonies, right? It's that kid thing. And once kids become young men and women, their priorities change, their imaginations change, because what they're focused on isn't riding your bikes and being kids anymore. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll, if I could use that old-fashioned saying, right? But that's what it is. I mean, that's what, especially in the 80s. So, I mean, you know, they don't have, you know, phones and all this kind of shit to keep, you know, it's definitely in the 80s, it was like that. So that sense of, you know, sex, right? I mean, Mike and 11, are they going to?
They better not. They
but
better not.
No. But what I'm saying is that's a reality if you're 17, right? I mean, you can only do this. You can only do that for, so it's cute to see them, you know, kissing, right? It's the you can only, eventually there's going to have to be some going on, you know, because they're going to be 17, and then what, you know, and then pregnancy and all this. I mean, I'm just saying that the identity of the show has a very strict shelf life. And even the Duffer brothers have said that. And they said 4, maybe 5. I think that's true. But after this season, I'm thinking maybe 4. Maybe 4.
Well, unless they do a back-to-back. If they shoot season 4 and 5 together to keep it with, so that the kids still, because if you delay, if you shoot 4 and you try to aim for 5, well, okay, you're going to shoot 4. Millie will be 16.
Right.
Millie will be 16 when they're doing 4. The boys will be 17, because I think I saw that one of the kid who plays Will, he's going to be applying to colleges next year.
That's,
you know what
exactly,
I mean? So now,
it.
in real life, I'm saying in real life, not in the show.
Yeah.
In real life, the kid who plays Will, he's next year. He said in an interview here recently, I'm planning next summer. Gonna start applying. To college.
But he's only 15.
17. No, he's gonna be 16. And
No.
next summer.
Next summer.
Next summer, he's going to be starting to thinking about applying, because he's going to be starting. You know, he's going to be turning 17.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's going to. He's not 17. He's going to be turning 17. Yeah. So he's going to be. That's what he said. He's going to start next summer. He's going to start thinking about applying for colleges.
That's so weird, because at this very moment he's only 14 and he turns 15. I think this October or something.
Could be going to also college a lot sooner too. I mean, that's
that's true. No, that's very true. Yeah, he's currently.
Seems like
He's currently Noah Schnapp, or what is it, Schnapp?
No, Schnapp.
Schnapp. Yeah, there he is. Yeah, he's 14. His birthday's October 3rd, so he doesn't turn 15 until this October. So next summer he'll be 15 and a half. So that seems kind of weird, but.
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on what he's doing for schooling. Is he homeschool?
Yeah, no, that's true too. And maybe he's a fucking genius and we don't know about it. But yeah, so it's that identity. Like, you lose that charm of the show. The kids, they're not cute anymore. You know what I mean? And that was part of the show, you know? Yeah. And then if you like,
it sucks growing up. It does.
Well, somebody said to me a little while ago that they were hoping that it goes like, you know, 6 or like 7 or 8 seasons. I'm like, yeah, but then it just becomes Beverly Hills 90210. And nobody, and then it just becomes like the drama, the soap opera drama that they would have to introduce into Stranger Things would be ridiculous because of their ages. Stranger Things works best because they're kids and they're working on their imaginations, you know, and that's why it's so important. So I can feel watching this season wrap. I'm like, I think it's time to bring it home. I think it's time to bring it home.
Yeah.
You know? What do you want to see from a 4th season?
Gee, I don't know, man. I mean, honestly, I've watched so much Stranger Things these last few weeks. I don't want to see anything Stranger Things for a
That's right.
while. I'm burnt out on Stranger Things. But as far as the fourth season goes, give me something new. Let's stay away from the teen love stuff. Let's stay away from political undertones, because I felt like, again, there are way too many political undertones
Right.
that were going on here. We don't, you don't need it. I hope, I agree with you. I hope Netflix, grows a pair and says, fuck you, we're going to have our characters smoke. Freedom of creativity. I don't care if you're offended or not. If you're offended, go cry, and, here's a box of tissues in your corner, or your safe space, wherever you need to be. Because, I mean, when you start taking away the freedom of creativity, I mean, you lose the fun of what creating something is all about. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying
Well,
that,
and especially when it's justified to the character.
right. And I'm not saying every actor has to be a smoker and whatnot, but I mean, if this is the road, this is a dangerous road that Netflix is going on, because if they cave into this shit,
Yeah.
this is a forecast of where we're fucking heading to. And I said this on my Instagram stories not too long ago. The fun that me and my friends and everyone's having creating these horror photos, if this happens, there will be a point 5 whatever years from now, I won't be able to do the shit that I'm doing, because we become that fucking sensitive of a culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No,
And
it is a big problem. It is a big problem, and I hope Netflix. I read the press release, but I'm hoping that they. But in the same token, they did say that they understand that there is the freedom of expression in terms of creativity, and whether or not it suits the character or the time period or whatever the case is. So hopefully they will honor that. But what you said is right too.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's set in the 80s, 90s, 2000s.
No, I agree.
If you write the character and he's a smoker or she's a smoker, that's
right.
how you write the character, and end of story. That's the freedom of creativity. You take that away, fuck it, man. It's like,
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Absolutely. Yep. 100%. Yep. Absolutely.
Anyway,
and it's a fine line. Yeah. Let's get to the questions. So, so we're going to up the chat room now. So here's your opportunity to ask Tony and I some questions. And now you can super chat if you want to, because now we won't miss it. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Season 3 of season 4. I just hope that, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, we could talk on and on and on.
I don't want to think about season 4 right now.
All right, so let's see here. Super chat from PC Pierce. Thanks, PC. Says, do 11 or Will have to die to culminate the series? I would be open to it. I don't think they're going to. Yes, yeah.
Sacrifice.
Yep. I don't think they will, because I just don't think it would, but I would be open to it. Sacrifice herself, yes. Yeah, I think that would be a ballsy move, but I think you would have a lot of people, upset or whatever. And
sure.
As much as I love Hopper and I hope he's not gone, there's part of me that kind of I have to admit, there's kind of part of me that hopes he is. There's kind of part of me that hopes that he is gone. Hopper is gone.
Just because I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, what? Oh, no. I was just saying that as much as I love Hopper and I don't want him gone, there's part of me that hopes he is gone, because it gives gravity and weight to the series, and it makes that ending monologue so much more powerful. If he's just going to come back, well, Anyway, super chat for Brandon Berry. What do you think of filming?
I told you. I said before we went live, I said, guarantee you someone's going to ask this question.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I will say here what I've been saying to many people. I have not done a video on the Halloween news that dropped last week from Bloody Disgusting, because quite frankly, I don't think there's enough there. It has nothing to do with Bloody Disgusting not being a reputable source. In the world of horror, they're pretty reputable. That doesn't mean that they're always right. They're not. But I'm not always right. But the fact of the matter is that my channel's not about I'm about quality over quantity. If other people want to do it, that's great. I'm not saying it isn't quality. I'm not saying that. But at the end of the day, for me, when I read that Bloody Disgusting says their source, who is trusted, okay, says that they know somebody who says that Blumhouse is speculating on something. So what am I doing? Speculating on the speculation? I mean, I just, there's nothing there for me. There's just nothing there. It's a moot video, and it's just, for me, it's a waste of time because I'm just speculating on the speculation. And even the source says, yeah, they're kind of thinking about that, but not really sure. So
that's like saying I'm kind of thinking about having a steak and cheese sandwich tomorrow. But...
Right, and then I upload a 10-minute video talking about how Tony's thinking about having a steak and cheese sandwich. I will say this, that the shooting back to back is not unprecedented. People have done it.
Yeah,
I can see that. Releasing 2 movies in the month of October is what I have as an issue. I think the probability of that is very low, below 25%. I only go as high as 25% because Blumhouse tends to be innovative. They tend to like to think outside the box, and they tend to like to hire people that have never made a movie before, or that have never made a feature before, I should say, on that level, whatever the case is. So is it possible? Anything's possible. It's possible that somebody could break down my door right now and hand me a ham sandwich, but is it probable? And to release 2 movies in the month of October could pose a logistical nightmare in terms of marketing. And you eat into each other's box office. And then there's the box office competition. It's not just, it's so many people, no, they could just do it. No, they can't just do it. It's why they haven't just done it. Because it poses many variables that could be problematic. That's why it hasn't been done before. And the closest it's been done was The Matrix, which was 6 months apart. There's a lot of breathing room there. So, there's just nothing to speculate on. That's the extent of my speculation, really. It's just, I just don't think there's a lot of truth to it. It's not, I don't think that Bloody Disgusting is necessarily lying, but anybody could say anything, and until there's more meat on the bone. It's why even though I didn't get credit for it, it's because I didn't actually use the word Halloween. But I broke the story, if you will, that Blumhouse was going to do a Halloween 2 before Collider did. I broke it 3 days prior because I had a source who I will leave nameless, but my source, the reason why I was confident in breaking that tweet to you trying to be inconspicuous is because my source was actually in a room where Universal was doing a presentation and said that we are going to do it.
Right.
So, I mean, I know this source, and I was like, oh, okay. So I was confident in saying that. And then 3 days... Now, but to be fair, that story still hasn't been officially broken. Blumhouse and Universal still hasn't officially said it. Because Collider must have had some of the same... Not exactly the same source, but some of the same sources that were at the same event. So that's why they were able to break it. But Collider, of course, is much bigger than me and much more well-known. And they actually wrote an article that said Halloween. I was trying to be inconspicuous because I didn't want the tweet taken down. I wanted to kind of nudge you guys and go, psst, guess what? And hopefully you guys would be able to read between the lines. But for me, there just has to be meat on the bone. That's when I'll go out. Now it's just like, okay, so they could be doing this, they might do that, and somebody said that they're thinking about it, and they're thinking about it. Okay. Well, that probability is so low that I think the chances of them actually doing it is not the 2 films back to back. That's doable, that's probable. In the
like
same
a 2020, 2021 release.
100%, happens all the time. Same movie, 2 movies in the month of October, just weeks apart. I'm highly skeptical. And even my source, who works in the film industry for a Hollywood studio, said he's very skeptical as well. He doesn't work for Blumhouse. I'm not saying that. But he works, and he said that seems just, it presents so many problems. So, but we'll see. So I just didn't think it was worthy doing a video. Anyway,
the Filmatic asks us, hey, Dave, Tony, who's your favorite Bond actor? Also, you guys don't have to answer this, but thoughts on 007 controversy going with a female actress? Well, first of all, I've never watched a single Bond film ever, which the irony of this is Roger Moore, Roger Moore, Sean Connery, Pierce Bronson. Who's the other dude here currently? I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig. It's like weird. I know the names. I know who the actors are, but I've never even fucking seen a Bond movie.
Wow, I've seen probably.
In my entire life.
I've probably seen about maybe 5 or 6 of them.
I never watched it.
Yeah,
you know?
You'd like the Daniel Craig ones.
Yeah,
like you definitely like Casino Royale, and you'd like that one from 2011. What the hell was that one? Not the last one he did, Spectre, but the one prior to that. You'd like that one as well. That was really good. He's a good Bond. He's a good Bond.
I mean, as far as the female thing goes, I mean, look, they're doing this. They did it with Ghostbusters. They're basically taking a lot of characters and turning it into a strong female lead role.
Skyfall,
and,
that's it. Yeah.
Honestly, my thing with it is it's like this. What's the like the Black Little Mermaid thing? Okay.
Right.
I'm not against the idea of an African American playing the Little Mermaid. My question is like, has the well run dry at Disney that you can't come up with something fucking new? Right. That's my only issue with it. It's like, I don't care who you cast to play Ariel. I'm sorry, you can cast fucking Beyonce to play Ariel. Ariel will always be looked at as the little redhead, okay, that's there singing Under the Sea with Sebastian and fucking Flounder. All right, that's
right.
Always be looked at. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, can't you just come up with something new? Why does Ocean's 11 have to have a female-led cast? There's no point to it whatsoever. I mean, just come up with new shit, dude. Why can't you come up with like a strong, badass female-led, spy, whatever? Why do you have to come off the coattails of, James Bond or something like that? Why can't you just, create something new? Because if you didn't learn your lesson from Ghostbuster, and if you didn't learn your lesson from the Ocean 11 movies or Ocean 8, whatever it was, you're going to learn your lesson with the Bond movie if you make it and no one shows up and pays to go see it.
Yeah, no, it's valid points you make. I think it's important. It's an important distinction to make. From my understanding, I stand to be corrected, but from my understanding, James Bond is not being replaced. It's 007. So the 007 in this Bond movie, she's not Jane Bond. She's somebody else. I don't know, Carol, whoever. I don't know, Carol. But she's taken on the number 007 because James Bond has retired. I think he opens the movie retired or something to that effect. So she's taken on the 007 number. Now, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying I like to have our facts right because I do see some people saying, "Oh, we have a female James Bond." It's like, well, no, we don't. We have somebody else who's taken on the number and blah. Now, what they decide to do going forward without Daniel Craig, I don't know. But maybe again, for all intents and purposes, she's the James Bond, but she's not necessarily going to be Jane Bond or Julie Bond or whatever it is. She would just take on the number. However, I do agree with what Tony has said. If you really want to empower women, and I'm all for that. If you want to do that, it's a catch-22. The problem is that they try to, like, for example, oh, we need a female Indiana Jones. We have one. We have Laura Croft. The problem is nobody goes out to see it. And, I would like to think, and I know a lot of women, and I know a lot of women in this industry, and many of them have said to me, we want our own shit. We want to be able to stand on our own because we don't want to be Jane Bond or, Indiana Etta Jones or, whatever it is. It's not that it wouldn't be cool.
Or Michelle Myers,
Right, exactly. We want to have our own. That's how you lift people up, right? A rising tide lifts all sails. So it's that thing where it's like you create dynamic and original badass characters like Ripley, and Sarah Connor, and it's yes, absolutely, and I'm not saying everybody agrees with me. I'm not saying all women agree with me, but I do know a lot of women who've spoken to me privately have said I don't want to be Jane Bond. I don't even want to be I don't even want to be the main character in a 007. Make my own spy shit. Make my own series. I want my own fucking series. I want my own series. That's a spy series. And maybe it's really good. And if it's written well, it's cast well, it's directed well, and maybe it will find a following. and that's how you lift people up. But the second you start having female Indiana Joneses, female Ghostbusters, which, by the way, I liked the female Ghostbusters movie. I have to give credit where credit.
I agree.
Yeah, I thought it was actually kind of funny. Now, it's directed by Paul Feig, who directed Spy and Bridesmaids. So, you got to give credit. I thought it was all right. But I agree it was a horrible disaster in terms of marketing and completely not needed. But that's not how you lift people up. You give or lift women up or empower them. I mean, I'm all for that. Sure. I mean, women have been, and it's not like we've just started doing this. We've had powerful women throughout
what you're saying
film.
Is the only way, because what you're saying is Hollywood, the only way women can become empowered is doing what men have done successfully.
Right. And that's a problem. Now, that doesn't mean that if it is intersexed a character, hey, why not try this kind of spin-off? Hey, cool, I'm for that. But if it's predominantly a male character and it's embedded into the pop culture as male and you try to have it as female, that can be a problem. It's hard to get people on board with that because the identity is so something else. And I think maybe with this James Bond movie, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, where it's like, okay, she's not Jane Bond, but she's 007, because 007 is just a number. When James Bond retires, that number is going to go to somebody else. And maybe that number goes to this other person who happens to be a woman and she's a spy. Okay, I don't know how that's going to go over, but we'll see. It'd be like having a female Captain Kirk. We've had female captains, but they've been their own thing. They've been their own shit, not Jane Kirk, or something like that. So anyways, we could go on and on, but I agree with what they're saying. It's a tricky, it's a tough conversation to have. I often feel that the solution lies somewhere in the middle.
I don't think it is, because I would sit here, and argue with, a feminist about this who was like, well, we need this. Yeah, you do need it, but you need your own identity. Why,
right.
Why do you need to piggyback off of what was it, like Ghostbusters was an all-male cast. It will always be revered as an all-male cast. You will never get above Venkman and Spangler and Egon and Winston. Never. Ever. It's never going to happen. I can't say the same thing about Ocean's. I mean, I like Ocean's 11. Ocean's 12 was okay. Ocean's 13, it kind of fell apart. But, it's not nowhere near on the same level as Ghostbusters. But that's my point. You want to do what the men did successfully, and you honestly think, I can't even tell you the 4 ladies' names in Ghostbusters. And here I just rattled off the 4 names instantly from the original Ghostbusters. That's my point. Make your own characters. Like with Disney doing the Little Mermaid, don't even touch it. I wish I could do what Disney's doing successfully and taking the shit and recycling it. Basically, is what they're doing. And
and the problem is as well is that when it almost becomes an illusion, because if, let's hypothetically say, you cast a woman as Indiana Jones, a woman as, James Bond, a woman, whatever the case is, but you're piggybacking on the IP and the property. And, then really is the woman standing on her. Let's say the movie does do well, because remember, the box office receipts isn't a reflection of how many people like the movie. It's a reflection of how many people went to see it. So you could have a female Indiana Jones that makes $500 million at the box office, but that doesn't mean everybody liked it. It could be a critical disaster, but you still made a lot of money. But you made a lot of money because it's Indiana Jones. Not because it's a female Indiana Jones necessarily. So I agree with what you're saying. It's important to empower anybody to have their own sort of thing so they can stand on their own and have their own identity. And that's important.
I don't think it's just in women in general. I think it's everything in general. Like, come up with new shit, man. Just come up with new stuff. I agree. I cannot believe that we are this dried up in creativity that we can't fucking make new shit. Because here's my argument. Well, because, you look at our childhood right now. The girls had the Little Mermaid. We had the Lion King. You had all these, Toy Story came out. You had all these original cartoon characters that were created when we were kids. what the fuck is this new generation going to have when they become adults? They're going to have the same characters that we had. They're not going to be fucking the snow princess there. What's her fucking name? Frozen?
Frozen.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Bella,
The movie
whatever.
Frozen. Yeah.
That's really the only new thing that I can think of that young kids today can have to look up to, and talk about, when you and I talk about our childhood. Yeah, man, the fucking Lion King, man. Remember going fucking see that shit back in the day? Or girls, yeah, I remember fucking watching Beauty and the Beast and fucking watching The Little Mermaid and shit like that. What are fucking girls now, 20 years from now, going to be able to talk about? Yeah, well, we just watched the reimagining of what my parents had, back when they were kids.
Yeah, look, I agree with what you're saying, and I often, when it gets to this point, in a conversation like this, I often tell people, listen, there's a very simple solution. You don't go see it. If you don't want another, stop going to see it. Don't go see The Lion King. Don't go see. The problem is people can't. They love being entertained. They're curious. They have to go. The problem is if you don't, the only way to have no more Halloweens or no more of this or no more of that, don't go see the movie, because this is not about, they don't give a fuck what you think about it. They don't care whether you liked it or not, because
money.
Because it's a business. That's the perception is that, I hated that movie. They don't care. Trancas International doesn't give a fuck that I don't like Halloween 5. They don't care. Now, it didn't make that much money, but they don't care, right? So you get them at the box office. That's how you do it, And for those of you that don't want another Avatar, don't go see it. Don't be a dick and go see it. I'm going to go see it because I loved Avatar. But if you didn't like Avatar, don't go see it. It's that simple. Now,
I mean, honestly, when you look at the catalog of movies in the last, even from 2000 to 2019, can you sit there and rattle off iconic horror characters? Even I'm not even just saying in slasher.
I understand.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Or even cartoon characters. Yeah, I know there's Frozen and whatnot, but we're just not creating anything new. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, I honestly cannot believe the well is that dry, because you know why? There are YouTubers out there, and I'm seeing this shit constantly, who are creating original shit, original scary stories or movies and whatnot, and posting it on there. And it's like what happened with David F. Sandberg and Lights Out. You know what I mean? There's a lot of David F. Sandbergs out there that are not getting discovered, for whatever reason or another. I don't know why, but no, I know why from the business point of view. That yes, I get it. Halloween is a successful IP, and Halloween's going to make money. But Jesus, man, like, we're not going to have any new shit. Like, what the fuck are we going to be talking about 20 years?
And they
shit.
I agree with you, and they don't care. Listen, the studios are run by corporate heads. Okay, it's a business, and it's not about being creative. That doesn't mean they don't hope that you like the movie, but at the end of the day, there's a bottom line, and that bottom line is, what can we dish out as quickly as possible, as cheaply as possible, and as much as possible, because people, feed them bread in circuses, right? That's the famous saying, and people just go, and they go, Halloween 29. It doesn't matter. They could make Halloween 29, and 90% of the chat room would go watch it, and they'd pay to go watch it. And that's why they continue to make movies. And there's a studio, like, from the studio heads, it's not that there aren't independent films, but they don't make money. They don't make the same kind of money. And when you get to the big studios, what can we dish out and make money? And it's the proven IPs and properties. And if you want them to stop, you just stop going to see it. Okay, let's move on. PC Pierce here says, thoughts on Alex Aja's interest in rebooting Nightmare on Elm Street? Nothing. I have no. I mean,
basically what we just talked about for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'd be curious about an Elm Street reboot, but in terms of him, I don't know. I mean, it's just a rumor right now, and everybody's interested, and there's, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have a thought on it. But thank you for the super chat, PC. Much appreciated. James Polch says, do you guys think they will be able to make a fourth season original creative? They did something different in this season than the last two, and how they can make another season feel original. Well, I think they just have to open things up. I think they have to continue to open things up, because that's what you have to do without losing that small town feel. But I think it's, personally, I think this next season should be the last season, and that way you don't get too far ahead of yourself by just making the identity and the feel of the show just totally, completely different. Tony, do you see it the same way?
I agree. I think a couple of things are probably going to happen because you can get the vibe. One from Finn Wolf, whatever his name is that plays Mike. His hair's getting longer.
Yeah.
His hair's getting longer. So I think this is going to set in between, like Dave said, 87, 88. I think heavy metal is going to play a big factor because that's really like now you're getting like peak heavy metal
and
time between that.
He can play the guitar too.
Oh, he has a band, Cabernet or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Or something like that, yeah. And I think heavy metal is going to play a big factor in even more so. I know they kind of skimmed it in season 2 with Billy's character. I think it's going to be even more. I think people better brace themselves. I think people better brace themselves for the Sweet Innocent 11, the Sweet Innocent Max. I think these are going to be badass metal type girls, possibly borderline Madonna type things that that were the fashion of that time. Because again, you're talking about, first of all, when are they going to start production? Do they start production here soon? If they do what they did with season 3 and they wait a year to start production, like Dave and I said, now you're going to be talking close to 16-year-olds. Well, Millie's 15, so she will be 16.
That's right.
Because I did see she's driving now because I saw like a video of her driving or some shit. I'm like, Jesus, this girl's already driving now. Yeah. So it's like, I think you're going to see that as part of, I'm not saying like, I mean, maybe they might go metal. Maybe this thing's like, like a Spinal Tap type, has a metal vibe to it.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, because you are getting into the later half of the 80s when metal was pretty much ruling the world at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I just, like, obviously the buyers have moved, and I have a feeling this might be set. I think you're right. I think this is going to be a couple years later. Yeah, I think so. And maybe even 11 and Mike, because of the distance thing, maybe they're not together. Yeah. That might be interesting as well, because that's a reality that especially
the hardcore fan base out there.
Yeah, especially that, at that age and things like that. So I'm just
new girls, new guys,
That's right. High school, I just basically, at the end of season 3, as much as I love this show and I really enjoyed season 3, like I said, I feel that the next season maybe should be its last, because I think we're coming to it now. Like, it feels like, okay, we're coming to it now. As much as I love them, I'd rather go out on top than have that one season where we're like, you know what I mean? Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's see here. Let's see if we can get something good. Bobby Hall. Hey, Bobby. Dave and Tony, how about John Carpenter reprising his role from the original Halloween and be in the sequel in 2020? Remember, he was the voice of Paul Annie's boyfriend. Oh yeah, he needs his revenge. I'd be okay with that. I've often thought it would be cool to have John Carpenter as a cameo as like a convenience store clerk. That's about as much as you can get from him. So maybe, there's a convenience store scene in the sequel or something where somebody goes into a convenience store to buy a pack of smokes or whatever it is, and the guy behind the counter is old curmudgeon John Carpenter. You know what I mean? And he's there, and the guy's like, hey, you hear like ding ding, the door opens, ding ding, shuts behind them, and he's like, hey, I guess I'll get that chocolate bar and chips or whatever. And it's John Carpenter, and he's like, all right, that'll be it. And he's like, can I get a pack of, menthol light, or I don't know what the fuck, whatever it is, right? He's like, yeah, okay.
To what Wes Craven was in Scream.
Yeah, exactly. And he reaches behind him. He's like, there you go. And then as they're leaving, he says like, Happy Halloween, or something like that, right? That's the perfect role for him, because
even if he wants to do it.
That's right. But John Carpenter is notorious for saying, I love my life now because I can just hold out my hand. And he loves not doing shit. And
big time.
And if it wasn't 100%. And I can almost guarantee you, if it wasn't for his son Cody and Daniel Davies, he would not have scored that movie. I think because his son and Daniel, like they help alleviate a lot of the pressure, right? Yeah. So they're working together, and he's working with his son, and it's fun, and it's bonding. And if it was just him,
I often wonder, man, with a guy who's so talented as a director. I mean, he is so talented. I feel like something happened, to push him to that level where he just doesn't want to do shit.
I can tell you what it is. I think
because
I know
as
what
a
it is.
creator, as a creator, as someone who creates the content that I create on Instagram, I just can't envision myself ever stopping. I love the art of creating, and something had to have happened. Like what happened?
Well, I mean, this is speculation, but it's an informed opinion, because look, John Carpenter, by and large, John Carpenter is a cult horror director. He hasn't had a lot of studio success. He's had very little studio mainstream success.
Doesn't matter. He's still a great director in horror.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that he isn't. What I'm saying is that that's the reality in terms of the numbers, right? In terms of the facts, I agree with what you're saying, but that's the reality. The Thing was a studio film, didn't do well. Big Trouble in Little China was a studio film, didn't do well. And John Carpenter, I mean, you know, you look at the personality he's butted heads a lot with the few studio films that he's done. And I remember, like, his most successful film was Halloween. But I remember, and that was a little independent movie. I remember Carpenter saying in an interview that the Big Trouble and in Little China, because of the disaster he had with that, it basically salted him from just doing any more major studio films. And he got back into the independent route, and that's why you got They Live and In the Mouth of Madness and Ghosts of Mars and Vampires. Those are not massive studio release films. They're more on the independent side of things, and it's just I think he really hates not having the creative control, and especially in today. It's what put George Lucas, in terms of the fans as well. That's why Lucas hasn't done anything. You know what I mean? And that's a whole other thing. But Carpenter is extremely talented. He knows his shit. But I think he got to a point where his movies were not doing well, and they weren't generating the income that, I mean, The Ward, I didn't mind The Ward, didn't do very well. That's the last movie he did. And before that, it was like 10 years earlier with Vampires, I think. And then it was a few years before that with The Ghosts of Mars. And then he never really found his footing as a, I just think he's at a point in his life where it's like, there's nothing left for me to do. I don't want to work for the studios right now. I don't give a fuck. I'm too old. I don't want to deal with that bullshit. So I think that's why, and he's even said, I'd come back and do something small, because I think that's because he knows he can have the creative control over it. And when you work for a studio, unless you're Spielberg or maybe you're Scorsese, but I guarantee you David Gordon Green didn't get the last say in a lot of stuff. That's why there's such thing called a director's cut. A director's cut exists because that's the shit the studio took out. You know, so anyway, I think that's the ballpark. I think it's exhausting to him to go through it. It's hard making movies, but I agree with you. He's fucking talented, of course. Yeah, that's not a thing. I just think he just got jaded, essentially. Let's say a couple more. There was a super chat.
Mark McCatherine. I can answer this quickly. Tony, what's the chainsaw that I've been using in the Leatherface photos? That is a 1972 Pioneer chainsaw. I don't think it's the exact model that Gunnar Hansen and Toby Hooper used for the 74 Chainsaw Massacre, but I bought one from a guy from Montana who has vintage chainsaws. I tracked him down. I said, look, I showed him still images of what Gunnar Hansen used in the movie. I say, if you can get me as close as you can, to get the exact model. But he did. I mean, he got close. It's yellow, very similar, same exact size. He knew what it was. He said, look, it's a Pioneer. It's not the one. I forget the name brand that they used in the 74 film. I have to pull up the email, but the guy told me what it was. He said, it's close. It's very close. Most people might not even notice the difference until I actually now talk about it. That's where people might say, oh, then it's a Pioneer. It's not the whatever they used. But it's within the same, few years of the early 70s when those were the models that they were using for chainsaws.
I got to say again, for people who are not following Tony on Instagram, the link is in the description. You've got to do it. I mean, his horror photos have just been spectacular. And I love the one you just posted recently of Jason 2. And, with the fog and everything. I mean, it's just, it's awesome shit. So if you're not following Tony, you're doing yourself a disservice by doing that.
I got a good one coming down the horizons, and I'm just going to show you this really quick. And I think most Halloween fans know already what I did. These are real legit Bob glasses, except just a different color. These are exactly what Bob wore back in the day in the 70s. Awesome. So I think you all know what's coming down the pipe real soon.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. Because, by the way, I am now officially on Instagram. I am on Instagram. So for those of you in the chat room that have Instagram and you're not following me, you can. The link is in the description, or you can. It's at Dave McRae 79. McRae is MCRAE. At Dave McRae 79, but the link is in the description as well, so that'll be easy for you to.
And the cool thing is now that
to do that
on IG. Is as I mentioned him, once me and Dave get connected on Instagram, we can do live Q&As with you guys on there and stuff like that.
That's right.
I'm totally psyched that he's now officially an Instagrammer.
Yes, slowly but surely. I only have one post on there, and that's just me in my car. But more posts will come. PC Pierce super chat. Thanks. PC says, Dave, least favorite Harrison Ford movies, performances. Tony, least favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movies, performances. Oh, this is probably the other day was Harrison Ford's birthday, and I made a couple of posts about the movies I liked and the performances. My least favorite performance from Harrison Ford.
And least favorite for Leo? That's what was asked for me?
Oh, sorry. Least favorite movies / performances.
Movies / okay.
And your Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm Harrison Ford. I would say least favorite.
Revolutionary Road. It's not
That's fascinating because it's one of my favorites by him. I love Revolutionary Road.
The story just bores me. I couldn't even finish the film. I love Kate Winslet. I love Leo. I think their dynamic is great together on screen, not just in Titanic. Their dynamic in that movie was good. The story, and it's from my neck of the woods of Connecticut, so I'm very familiar with the story. I knew about this. Everyone in Connecticut knew about this story. And just, I don't know, the pacing of the movie or what, I couldn't get through it. I just struggled with it for whatever fucking reason.
When was the last time you watched it or tried to watch it?
When it first came out.
Oh, that's
I haven't watched it since.
Okay, well, it came out in 2008, so that's 11 years ago. Try watching it again.
Yeah, maybe as I'm older, now that I'm older.
You know what movie I've tried watching 3 times, and I can't get through it? And it's crazy to think because the concept and the premise is right up my alley. I love that shit. But for whatever reason, I can't get through it, and I'm going to try again. I have the movie. I'm going to try again. It's What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
Really?
Yes, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's right up my alley. Like, I love the concept. I love the premise. I love Robin Williams. I love Cuba Gooding Jr. in that role. But for whatever reason, I'm going to try it again. For me, least favorite Harrison Ford movie would probably be maybe Hollywood Homicide.
Josh Hartnett?
Yeah, and then least favorite performance, maybe the same. I don't know. I'd have to have a list in front of me, but probably something like that.
Ford never really mails it in, you know what I mean, or phones it in. Sorry.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
He really doesn't. Even if he doesn't like the fact that he wasn't killed off in Return of the Jedi, he's still going to give you a solid performance. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's what you got to respect about Ford. So yeah, I remember Hollywood Homicide with him and Hartnett. I haven't seen it. I think I saw it once, and I definitely would concur with that.
Yeah.
Interstellar Man said, "Hey Dave, how would you rank the big 3 franchises, Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street?" I think I know how you're going to answer this.
Franchises.
Yeah, how would you rank? That's a key word there. He's not saying the individual films like the first Friday, the second, first Nightmare, and first Halloween. He's talking from start to fucking finish.
Well,
that's the key word of that question.
I would say that...
I think I know what he's going to say, but I'm going to...
Well, let me just say this. Halloween is nowhere near the top.
Bingo.
Halloween's not near the top.
Same here.
Because we're talking about franchises. Okay.
Franchise and the continuity of the franchise.
Right. I think, I mean, you can make an argument that Friday the 13th is first. As cheesy as it got, as crazy as it got, I don't like anything. I really don't like the Kane Hodder era. Nothing to do with Kane Hodder. He's just in bad movies. Right. He's just in bad movies. He looks great. He's awesome. But he's in bad movies, in my opinion.
His performance as Jason is phenomenal. Unfortunately, he's surrounded by a shitty story.
Exactly. So I wasn't a big fan of The New Blood. I'm obviously not a fan of Jason Takes Manhattan. I'm not a fan.
That's just a dope poster, you know?
Yeah. Well, but I hate the knife. It's like a little pocket knife almost. It's just so lame and small. It looks like a
string knife.
And I think he's got like gloves on or something. This looks weird. But anyway, hated that movie. Hated Jason Goes to Hell. It was just a dumpster fire of a fucking shit show. And I hated Jason X. But the Friday the 13th franchise has been pretty consistent in terms of its production value, in terms of its continuity. You know, there's a lot of movies I don't like in there, but there's a lot of movies I like. And, you know, I really like the first 4 films. I actually have grown, even though because it doesn't have Jason, I've grown to sort of guilty pleasure Friday the 13th Part 5.
5 is totally a guilty pleasure. I think it's more of a guilty pleasure because of the kills.
Right, exactly. And then Part 6 obviously is a fan favorite. It's the dream master of the Friday the 13th. And then so I think Friday would probably be first, but Elm Street's pretty close. Now, Elm Street doesn't have the consistency, but because you do kind of lose it a bit, but they did follow, as much as they got rid of characters, that it was still following the same continuity. It's just the characters changed, but it was still the same continuity. But you got that dumpster fire, Freddy's dead, and then you got so I think Elm Street would probably be next, but they're quite close actually. Funny enough, but it's and maybe depending on how I feel, it might But then Halloween's way at the bottom. Halloween's not even close. Halloween is a dumpster fire of a series. Overall.
Once you get past the first 4 films, it just, like you would say, it's a shit show.
And they use this thing, it's like a choose your own adventure. No, you fucked up. You fucked up. I mean, yes, it is like a choose your own adventure, but don't fucking pretend that was your goal all along. Don't fucking try to take credit for that. Don't sit there and, quip, joke about it in some sort of off the cuff way in an interview where you're like, oh yeah, well, we did this, then that, yeah, but the others is kind of like this choose your own adventure. Don't fucking pretend like you came up with it and it was your master plan all along. No, you made garbage films. You fucked up and you didn't know what to do with yourself, and now you're telling us to pretend all those fun choose your own adventure movies don't exist. So you're cannibalizing your own thought there anyway. So no, so like by and large, the Halloween series, the franchise, is garbage. Right. In terms of continuity, in terms of consistency, in terms of tone and atmosphere and production value, and it's just it sucks because it's my favorite horror character.
If you're talking character, Michael by far are both mine and yours favorite character.
At the top. That's different, right?
It's totally different. But when you talk the franchise, I'm with you. Friday, just like same thing. It's a hair of a fraction of it nudged just past Nightmare on Elm Street. It's not like Friday's here and Nightmare. No, it's like Friday, Nightmare. They're neck and neck with each other. But then Halloween here. To be quite honest with you, I'd put the fucking Psycho franchise before the Halloween franchise. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Psycho began to fall off the train tracks when you get to like the later parts, that franchise. It just, with Halloween, to me, Halloween is the first 4 films. I love 1 and 2, the 81 and 78, 1 and 2. I love Season of the Witch. I love the anthology, and you and I have said this exhaustively now about wanting to see more of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You all know how I feel about Halloween 4. I'm not even going to go into that now. And that's it. That's once you get to 5, I can't say either. I would be lying to you guys if I said, "Oh, this is what I love about 5, and this is what I love about 6 and H2O and Resurrection," when I truly don't. There are elements, there are ideas that I liked that they did with certain parts to the movie, but not enough to redeem itself. 5, the only thing that redeems itself is Loomis, Donald Pleasance, R.I.P. His performance was always stellar, and Danielle Harris did a great job, you know, but that's it. I mean, but I can't say a movie's good because 2 actors gave a good performance. 6 just fucking sucks. H2O is just aging fucking horribly, man. Like that thing. I just want to take a gun to my VHS and blow that thing out.
The funny thing is, Resurrection looks better than H2O.
Right? It does. I never thought I'd say that. I don't even own Resurrection, but
the cinematography in Resurrection is better than it is in H2O.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
And it's aged better.
And the execution of the Myers house in H2O, Resurrection, was great.
Yeah,
well done. You know, you got to give credit where credit is due. Unfortunately, I can't get behind the whole like trick or treat motherfucker. You know, like
well, just the story is garbage and Busta Rhymes and for sure.
Yeah,
I think the Resurrection mask is probably my second favorite mask after the.
It's a solid mask. It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
You know, after that, right back there, it's a decent mask. The rest, I won't. I'm like, some people ask me, am I going to buy? Because I guess Trick or Treat Studios releasing an H4 mask. I didn't even know this.
Oh, are they? I'm not sure. Maybe they are.
I had no idea, and
they
people were asking, but no, I have no desire to own that mask. As much as I love Halloween 4, and it is my favorite in that franchise. I just that mask, man. That's. I've always said if they could have gotten a mask, I'm not saying exactly like the 78 Kirk mask, but something close in that wheelhouse, Halloween 4 probably would be every fan's second favorite in the franchise. That really, it hurts it so much. So, I'm pretty sure people who watch this on the rewatch or afterwards are going to be like, oh my God, Dave, how can you not say Halloween isn't your favorite? Out of all of them, you're not a true Halloween fan, Dave.
I know. No, it's because I am a true Halloween fan. That's not to say, look, a lot of this is subjective, but I have standards, and there's a lot. I don't want dog shit movies, and I don't want to see the same thing over and over again. So, I like a bit of consistency in my plot and continuity, and I mean, that's why a lot of these things, the best ones are always the first one or the first couple, because they're the freshest, and then you get into the. Anyway, we could go on and on here, but we'll take a couple more. Nick, super chat. Thank you, Nick. Sorry?
I got a split here, so yeah.
No problem. Nick, guys, ever see the sci-fi flick Explorers? Yes, I have, from 1985. I do remember that movie. It's a kid's movie. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay, we'll take one more, because Tony's got a skedaddle.
I've got to skedaddle.
Let's see. We'll take a lot of statements here. Here, Zach Scaxiola says, Dave and Tony, I'm dying to know your guys' thoughts on Disney's The Little Mermaid from 1989. I haven't seen it in probably almost 30 years. I liked it as...
About 1989 was the last time I saw it.
Yeah, I liked it as a kid. And,
I know my sister watched it. She had it. She had all the Little Mermaid, Sleeping Beauty, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, all that shit. So yeah.
Yep. No, I liked it as a kid. Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, for sure. Okay, folks, that's gonna do it for Tony and I.
Here's a quick question. The film addict, Dave, Tony. I don't know if you talked about this. We talked about it before the stream, though. On thoughts on the Area 51 raid. Also, Dave, your video topic Dave's video on the Area 51. Man, that shit was the funniest thing I've seen all year. That was fucking hysterical. That thing needs 1 million+ views because that is fucking. I mean, as far as the raid itself, if people actually go there and get themselves killed over something stupid, I mean, that's your own dumbass fault.
Absolutely.
I mean, the military has every right to do. I mean, you're warned. You're gonna, if you cross that line, you're on your fucking own.
Do you want to know what's so fascinating? Now, the vast majority of people that have commented on those videos are new people that have been drawn to my channel because of it. I've been called an FBI agent. I've been called a CIA agent, that I'm just trying to deter people from, like it's fascinating. I'm like, wow, these people really do exist. Like, these paranoid people really do exist, and they're saying all sorts of stuff, and they're saying, fuck you, aliens is. Hey, listen, I'm actually somebody that believes that the existence of extraterrestrial life. Oh yeah, 100%. And I tend to think that the probability is very high that they may have even come to this planet. Yes, but
I
to
think they
storm
flew to
across the
planet
desert, to
here.
storm, yeah, but to storm across the desert, to area, it's just the visual of that was hilarious to me. It had nothing to do with whether I believe in aliens or not. It's just the visual was really funny, which is why I did those two videos. But of course, we live in a very black and white world, and obviously you
You
can't
want to know
make
what I think
you
was
can't
on
make
there?
fun of something but still agree with that something. Like you can't make fun of something because then you're either, oh, hey, he's making light of it, therefore he must hate it. And it's like, oh fuck, we're
Yeah,
fucked, man, as
I
a society.
honestly
I'm
think
telling you.
I don't think this is like Independence Day where you're going to show up and you're going to see Data with long hair, freaking holding aliens hostage under some private like facility and whatnot. I think Area 51 has and always will be some type of military thing where a lot of our top secret shit's being created, being built for the military that for obvious reasons, for security reasons, they don't want to be let out, for our enemies to get a hold of and shit like that. I think that's honestly a lot of what's going on. I'm not saying like what Dave's saying that aliens and shit like that hasn't happened. Because I agree with him. I think first of all, I think aliens have come here. I think aliens have taken one look at our human race and said, "Fuck this! I don't want anything to do with this fuckers. we're going elsewhere because they're fucking up their own shit on their own." But yeah, no, because I just can't believe in this vast universe we're the only ones. Like that just, no. I just think our technology hasn't caught up to what's there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
no. We should do a show on that. That'd be a lot of fun to do.
I agree.
Talk about
I think so.
extraterrestrial life and Area 51, Roswell, maybe, and because I got thoughts on it too. I mean, I find I've gone down quite a few rabbit holes. Let's just say. All right, folks, that's going to do it for Tony and I on episode 30 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Thank you for joining us. For each and every one of you that contributed via Super Chat, thank you as well. Much appreciated. Goes right back into the channel here. And Tony and I will be back probably next week as well for another episode 31. Ooh, 31. It'll be great when we get to 79. But yeah, if you want to follow...
Probably will be within a year.
That's true. If you want to follow Tony and I on Instagram, his link is in the description, as well as links to all my social media as well as my new Instagram page. It is down there as well. So if you're not following me on Instagram, follow me now. And yeah, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back soon. So in the meantime and in between time, we'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Cheers.